Yes, people, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. I hope you're okay. I hope you're happy and healthy doing the things you love whilst the camera off axis is off kilter. Just like Tottenham's chances. No, I'm joking. We're going to be winning the League Cup, the Europa League Cup. I hope everyone's doing smashing things, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a fan phone-in show. So if you do want to come on and talk about all things Tottenham, then you can do that. We're not going to get into that just yet, but the link is in the description. I do have Drew Zilla, who's going to co-host and chaperone with me for the next sort of 18, 90 minutes, whatever. And we're going to just talk about a few bits and pieces that are out with Tottenham, with West Ham, new potential takeover there. Are they now going to be the next incarnation of American ownership? It's looking more and more likely. What does that mean? Can everyone let me know, by the way? I've just rehooked up my my Shure mic for the first time in months. I don't know if it is coming through correctly. So can everyone let me know if you can hear me and if it's loud and clear? If it's loud and clear, or if it's too loud. Let me know if it's too loud. I also had to go out and buy a new camera today. Another Osmo, my third incarnation. This is the usual one that I use. But I had to go and get another one. You know why? Because Bugsy Malone shenanigans were afoot. And she ran into the tripod and it broke. So we are another 500 quid down on equipment because of Bugsy Malone. She's the most expensive dog in the business. I hope you are ready for some transfer news. Let's see who's in the chat. Let's see who's in the house. What's crack-a-lacking? That's me saying this is a fan calling show. Cameras on if you want to join. Is he there? Is he back? He's not back yet. Oh, he is back. There he is. How you doing, Drew? Good to see you.
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. Do you have a good coffee?
I did. I've got one here. Got it in the old mug, raring to go.
You go in that direction. I'm going to have to get a little bit weird right now. It is 4 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's 5 o'clock in Bilbao. But I poured myself a generous portion of vodka that I was hoping to add some lemonade to. Turns out there's no lemonade left. So now I've got the delicate situation of, do I sip it like a madman, like a Russian madman, and just sip it? I do have a little bit of cider left, right? But you're not going to mix that. Or do I do something entirely crazy and drink one of these, my Cleaners gin and tonic, diet gin and tonics? Do I mix that with vodka? Are we making like a little bit of a Long Island iced tea? But it's not a Long Island, it's a long afternoon iced tea or a Surrey.
There we go. It's going to be a short afternoon. You keep them up, mate. I'm telling you.
We don't know how we do it, but we got to do it somehow. What an absolute belter of a super chat straight out of the bat from Blaine Devlin. Look at this man. He's an absolute legend. We love Blaine. Thank you so much, Blaine. He said he sang it in Bodo. He'll sing it in Spain. Shawnee Butler's doing it again. Hackett tried to stop him, and look what it did. Well, no, he's a super.
Yeah,
I think the hackers are still going to come back out and try and stop me again, man. They're embedded. They're part of my life, like a tick, you know, like a tick. But thank mate, superstar Blaine, you're an absolute legend, mate. Thank you so much for the super chat. Very nice, you buddy. Look, mate, the link is in the chat, Blaine, if you want to come on and be a part of it. But we do have a few things to talk about first. Like I'm slowing my words already. Haven't even started drinking yet. Haven't even started. Well, actually, I've had a half a bottle. Where did we get to? Drew was next up. Guys, smash the like button for me. Smash the subscribe. We've got Blaine saying, afternoon, everyone. Do as Drew says. Whack that like button. Smash the granny out of the like button, people. Taparoo. I heard rumours if you do, Sean will meet his senorita and Henry will have to sleep in the hallway. Do it, folks. Yeah, it's like Peter Pan. Clap if you believe. Do it.
There you go. Hit it like Helga. Hit it like she's Helga.
It's good to see you, Scotty, on the bike. Scott, good to see you, mate. Big up, Shawnee. Big up to you. Big up, Stephen Murphy. Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon. Joe says, okay. So does Destiny. Good to see you, man. I hope you're okay. Perfect, says Stephen. Appreciate you, Stephen. What we talking about here? Only update on the Spurs takeover. Nothing to do with the Spurs. But we do have one about West Ham, which we're going to talk about in a second. Sean is on time. I was going to turn on at 10 past. I mean, I'm still 3 or 4 minutes late, but it's all good. All gravy here. You know, good to see you, mate. Good to see you. Thank you. Who have we got? Bugsy is perfect. Drink the gin. Do you have any OJ in the house? No, I don't. I had bottled water. You got to get your 2 liters a day. I have cider, or I have gin and tonic. I don't know if it's going to work with vodka, but we shall see. We shall see. It might be one of those experimentation stages. Legends says, Johnny, good to see you. Good to see you. Polly's in the house. Afternoon, Bugsy and Sean. Good hat. Yeah, I thought I'd change the hat, although I don't like it.
Very nice hat. No?
I'm not a fan of it. I might give it away. I might give it away as a part of some sort of package, some sort of prize. Dobby's dad. Afternoon, everyone. Hope you are. You know what, actually?
Just doesn't feel right, does it? Just doesn't feel right. There he is. There he is, everybody. Sean Butler. Sean Butler.
Sean Butler.
We have Fraud Butler. No, Sean Butler. There we go. He's back.
Fraud Butler. Love that. Big Shorty, thought you were being Bilbao already. Senoritas, I am not there yet, mate. I'm not there yet. I'm going to be there on Tuesday. So we've got today, and we've got one more day of content for you people. We're joy, mate, but I'm out in the garden today doing work. Lovely, mate. Lovely. Only time we're going to get near a home all weekend. Mate, I'm sure Viva Street exists in Belfast, doesn't it? What are we doing? What are we doing? Big up, Sean. Good to see you, Shawnee. Good to see you, Daniel. Good to see. Hope Tottenham, Sukil keep their strongest team. Big up. Not big. That's okay. I'm a big guy. That's fine. I don't mind. I lost some weight. I got up to 20 stone. I lost 5, went down to 15, then I'm back up to 17. This is the yin and yang. This is what happened, you know? Sort of somewhere in the middle. Drew, mate.
Yes, mate.
We've got news. I got to talk about West Ham. I got to talk about Chelsea, City, Villa. I've got some sort of Premier League stuff. But we'll have about that later. Let's just start by asking, how confident are you about Wednesday, mate?
I'm pretty confident, you know. I think I know, obviously, we've played them 3 times this year, beaten 3 times. I think I don't want to say it's gotten progressively easier, because I think actually the first game was the one where we sort of tore them apart, and the other 2 were a little bit tighter. At least the 1-0 was. So I just think we've got their number. I think, I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think Manchester United as a club and as a squad are in a worse place than we are.
Yeah.
Especially I would rather. What's that?
It's the battle of the bozos.
Yeah, right. For real. I think that I would rather be in our situation than their situation, especially squad-wise. Like defensively at the moment, I think they're at 6s and 7s. I think they've had I don't want to say lucky path, but they certainly rode their luck through the Europa League. And I think we've just been a little bit more secure. Like if you look at their games versus our games, they seem to just be all over the place. And to be fair to Bilbao, if they hadn't lost a man after 35 minutes in the first leg, there's a chance United still go through. But I think that first leg's a completely different story. I think they lost their heads, and United capitalised on it. But I think if you look at the way they've been playing in the league, like they've been putting out their strongest squad and still losing. Like not really, you know, there's not really anything to be gained in terms of momentum. So I don't know. I'm quietly confident. Like I wouldn't want to rub it in anybody's face. I've never really been somebody that, you know, especially beforehand, like because the last thing I want to do is jinx it. But I don't know, man. I think Mazraoui on the right is underrated. I think he's been doing really, really well. And I think if he has a good game down our right, Destiny has really got to have a good game, not only locking him up, but then putting him on the back foot. I think we've got to use our wings. I think if we try and play through the middle of their back 3 and probably at least 2 that are going to be sitting, I think that's playing into the hand, you know, that's playing into the strongest part of their squad, which, as I say, I'm still not wowed by it. But I think if we can get past the fullbacks and get crosses in, I really think I'd really like to see Richie on the left and Solanke up top. And I'd really like to see them both put it about in the box a little bit. So we'll see, man. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think we'll show up.
And what's your have you landed on the starting 11 yet, Drew? Or have you? I suppose 8 of them are guaranteed. But have you landed
Pretty
on
much.
You landed on the front 4? How you want to see it?
I think I would like to see, as I say, the back 5 as it should be. Bis Bentancur in the middle. There's rumours that Berghvall might be a bit ready, but I just don't want to risk it. If you're not 100%, I don't want you in the lineup. I don't want this Harry Kane thing again where we put him out for, for the sake of, I feel like Harry Kane because he felt like he had to play. I don't want all that bollocks again. So I would go with those.
Does that extend to Sonny as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've not seen enough. I've not seen enough from him to think that he's ready to start, in all honesty. And that's just my opinion. Other people might have it. And you might, there is an argument that he's got it in him that if you don't play him, you risk that one instance where he could potentially cut in and put in an absolute worldie into the corner. But I've not seen, honestly, anything this season that would give me the confidence that he's capable of doing that at the moment. And he might just show up and ball out, we'll all be
I've never been more happy to be mudded forevermore.
Right.
If he does start and ball out.
For sure.
Right? But it's a mud that I will wear proudly because I don't care about my opinion. No one should really care. I'm guilty of doing it as well. I've been saying this for 10 years that this player has been great. And no one gives a shit when you started saying something. No one really cares. Right? Everyone does it in content and it is what it is. But when you've been saying things and then it turns out that it didn't happen, you're on the receiving end of a lot of mud from people, but it's all banter.
Yeah.
On this one, I put out a tweet after the Villa game and I said, under no circumstances, if Sonny starts that game, it's the biggest miscarriage of justice on meritocracy that I've ever seen. He doesn't deserve to start, right? He does not deserve to start. We are guilty of romanticizing the environment and the event, and there's bigger things to worry about than Sonny's legacy. And he can come off the bench in the 60th minute. He didn't do anything against Villa. Everyone's like, he was the best player on the pitch. I was like, no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. In the second half, there were 11 players on Aston Villa's pitch, or side of the pitch, that were better than most of ours. But even in the first half, you have to recognize the context. Like Mickey Moore, and I'm someone that gives Mickey Moore a fairly hard time, right? I give Mickey Moore a fairly hard time because I'm like, I have expectations of him, but I don't think he's necessarily earned the stripes yet. But I feel like he got thrown under the bus, like Archie Gray did, and then against in previous games, and then against Villa, he got shoved out onto the right, which is fine if you want to put him out there because you see Odebear more as if Ange sees Odebear more as a 10 than him. Fair enough, that's cool. But then to direct the travel down that left-hand side, to me it was obvious, and might not be obvious to everyone else, and I could be wrong, but to me it was obvious that the entire intention was to test Sonny, to test his legs, to see what he could do. And in so doing, you're playing a kid who, once again, is fighting for his minutes, fighting for his life in Mickey Moore. But the entire strategy was to avoid him. I'm going to bring Soren in. You know what, guys? The link is out there. We're going to go into a 3 right now. If someone else joins, we'll go into a 4. If it gets to 7 or 8, whatever, then we'll just, this is a fan phoning show, but we'll just you know what we do? We don't have structure on here. We're like Ange Postecoglou's football team. Structureless content. How are you, Soren? Good to see you, mate. You okay?
Thanks. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Yeah, we're just talking about Sonny, and I'm just saying that he got fed it. Here comes the big aeroplane. He got fed the spoon, and he didn't do anything with it. He had 2 or 3 chances. I know he blazed one over, which wasn't a bad effort, but the real killer for me was when he broke free on the break on the counter and then just completely misread the pass. Whereas I look at Matisse Tell, and I know I'm in a pool of apparently 1 here, but I think that him and Odebear have got some sort of telepathy connection going on from their time at France Youth, where they understand each other. Tell threaded it through to Odebear for a tap-in through the eye of a needle at West Ham. Yes, on Friday night, he did the same thing. And then Odebear just did that little crazy backheel shot thing that was just classy. I think that there's a real nice little relationship that could nurture and be and mature there, Soren. And I just don't think, and I asked Drew the question, I'll ask the same to you. I don't think Sonny deserves to start on Wednesday. And I'll also share and echo Drew's point that even if there's rumours out, and if they are true, that Berghvall is shooting training or whatever he's doing, he's not training on he's still training by himself, but he's now doing ball work. I don't want to rush him either because I'm terrified of what Drew's suggested, which a lot of people have, that we're going to do exactly the same, make the same mistake we did in 2019.
You think the problem in it that we've got these big name players, like obviously back when it was Kane and now it's Sonny, that all of a sudden, because they're back fit, they should be getting a starting place. And now I agree with you that you look at it and you think the whole point of that game for Sonny was to get a little bit of fitness in his legs, and you just see that he's going to start. You just know it, and I think if he does, that's probably the first big mistake of the night. Like you say, to me, it should be telling Odegaard. We know they've got that rapport from the French team. You know that they've played together, they know each other a little bit, and that's the whole argument that Ange's been telling us, that he wants his wingers to be coherent together. So therefore, surely you play somebody that knows each other rather than chucking Sonny in because of his name. Now, I thought he wasn't too bad the other night, Sonny, in the sense of he seemed to have a little bit of pace there. He seemed to be running down that wing. The end product wasn't there, but he's been out for a couple of weeks, so you kind of forgive him for that. But it was nice to see him actually running with the ball and kind of looked as though he had a little bit of pace, but he can't start. He's got to come off the bench, if anything.
Do we think Odegaard's getting the start over Johnson, who 17-goal striker Johnson? And I can understand why people are putting it out there, because obviously Johnson's never has been flavour of the month, regardless of what he does. So, I mean, I'm just putting that out there. Like, are you dropping your top scorer? Sorry.
Before we answer that question, sorry, Kate broke in and she needs to come through the front door. Every time someone makes a debut on the channel, they get the doorbell treatment. Who could it be? It's been a while since I've done that. Look at this. It's Kate. How you doing, Kate? Good to see you.
I'm good. It's not my debut. It's just I've not been invited on forever, and I see it. I've been on your show loads of times, you banana.
Have you?
Yes.
There goes that brilliant memory of mine again, that eidetic memory that I used to claim that I had. Fuck.
Either that or I'm easily forgettable. I don't know which one it is, but yeah.
You can't forget. They can't forget you, Kate. You can't forget you. Nobody forgets Kate.
It was a while ago. I think the last time I was on your show, Mia was on with me. So that's how long ago it was.
Oh, fucking hell. How's she doing? She all right?
Yeah, she's good. She's good. She's just decided not to do YouTube anymore, which I can understand.
Yeah, for sure. No, she actually reached out to me she called me a donut. I think she changed. She got a new name on Twitter, and then her icon wasn't her face, so it was like whatever, a picture of a player or something. And then she went, "Oi, donut," and I was like, "Is that Mia?" The only person that can be that uses that name is like me is Mia. So yeah, she's not doing YouTube. It's a shame. She was good. She was good value, like Mia.
She was
good. Welcome back. I apologise for the short memory there. We're talking about how do we start our front line? And Drew just asked the question based on the premise that Soren, myself, and Drew all think that Sonny shouldn't start. But Kate, I did put out a tweet saying if Sonny starts, it's a disgrace to meritocracy and football at large. He's not ready. He's a shadow of his former self. And I think it had I don't know. They used to use this phrase back in the day, a couple of years ago on Twitter, called "you've been ratioed," when you have like a certain amount of likes, but then someone else comes in with a comment, and that comment has more likes than your initial post. And I think the comment that someone commented was something like, "You've lost." I think it was Sim. "You've lost the plot." And
that's
the next one was, "Shut up, you fat cunt."
Wow.
So it didn't go down well, but very few of my tweets on Twitter do actually go down well. I'm not particularly appreciated on that forum, but I stand by it. I think Matisse Tell has got a real value. I know a lot of people don't. I think that Sonny, I love Sonny, I love him to pieces, but I don't think that he deserves a starting berth. Before I get your answer, I just want to update everybody. If you're thinking about mixing 3 shots of vodka with a can of gin and tonic, my first sip, I was like, that's actually quite nice. My second sip, I was like, so don't do it. It doesn't work.
Okay.
Kate, what's your take on Sonny and Odegaard as well, and the like?
See, I actually replied to your tweet and you liked it because I completely agree with you, Sean, and said exactly the same thing on my preview with Sava. I don't think Sonny should be anywhere near the starting lineup. I think there is merit in having him on the bench as a potential super sub because we do know that he can still do some things sometimes and he can score a goal. But I think for him to start would be madness. Even the other day, he started off, he looked quite bright the first 10 minutes and then he disappeared into oblivion and we didn't really see him any more of him. So I was so super confident about this game and I'm so nervous now because of the creativity element of it. The three up front, I think it'll be probably, well, I would start Richie and Solanke because, and then I think he starts Brennan Johnson. I don't know. It's
Brennan Johnson.
Yeah.
Is there a world, right, where, and I might be called a lunatic for this, I think Solanke is the only person in our squad that can really receive a ball with his back to goal and pass a ball off to a person. Is it inconceivable to do some sort of 4-3-3, 4-4-1-1 kind of hybrid and have Solanke dropping a bit deeper in a 10, having Richie running off him, and then having wingers either side of those two? Or is that just absolutely barbaric? Because I feel like the strongest part of our squad, the two centre backs and your Bissouma and Bentancur, that square in Europe has been so solid, and the way that those two peel off and cover the fullbacks as they go forward, that feels to me like the way to do it. But yeah, I got called an absolute buffoon for suggesting that the other day.
I feel like everybody's got a strong opinion, but actually no one's got a strong opinion. I feel like right now it's like everyone has their half-baked opinion because no one's really sure what we're going to do, but also there's vulnerabilities to any solution. And so if you're suggesting one that's not quite the same as someone else's, they're going to go, sorry, and they're going to be like, well, that's not my solution. And there's obviously weaknesses in your solution. So I'm going to absolutely bury you by calling you this, that, and the other. And I just feel like I'm actually on board with you, Drew. I think that Solanke off in the 10, let him drop, right? He's not Harry Kane level dropper, but he's so much better with the ball at his feet. He's strong. And I think he can also curtail the strength of Casemiro and Ugarte, give them a bit of things to think about. His movement is phenomenal. His work rate is tireless. And then you have Richalison that can be there, and Richarlison's got a decent goal scoring record when he's played, right, Soren? So, I mean, do you agree, or do you see something a bit more nippy with Udogie in there or someone like that?
For me, I think we start very similar to what we have been. So it's either Solanke up front with Udogie and Tell, and then you've got that sort of tireless closing down and running. And then you bring on, say, Richalison, Brennan Johnson and Sonny, and you've still got that sort of emphasis on closing down a little bit, and it's a lot of pace all the time, all the game. That said, I couldn't argue against Richalison starting on the left, Solanke up front, and Johnson on the right. You also couldn't argue with Solanke up front in the middle, a bit like Drew said. So there's a lot of permutations there that kind of wouldn't surprise you if it was set like that for the sort of long game process. But I don't know. I've said it for quite a while now. I just think our name's written on this cup this year. I absolutely believe in it. We've been saying over on the Irish that it's very rare for me not to feel a little bit nervous going into these matches. And for the last 3-4 games in Europe, there's been no nerves. I just have that belief this year that we're lifting that cup, and I don't see any other outcome.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I don't disagree at all. The question mark: Are we all agreed? Sorry, just quickly. Are we all agreed though that everything else in the squad is as it was, right? The back five picks itself. Bissouma and Bentancur picks itself. Is there any shout for if Pape Sarr's back twinge is okay? Is there any shout to see him? Someone put it in the comment there saying that you got to test Onana, right? He's sloppy, floppy, flip-floppy bollocks.
For sure.
And that if you take pot shots at him, you never know. And if he does spill it, especially it's supposed to be raining on the night, right? So if it is a slippery surface, then is there an argument that you put Pape Sarr in there? Because he does. I mean, look, in my experience being in the Tottenham Stadium when he plays, he likes to have a pot shot from distance. Most of them come closer to me in row 49 than the goal. But you never know. You never know that he might get one on target. And if he does, then you have Richalison and Solanke et al. Like sniffing around the box, like for the follow up. It's probably also, if you're going to put Pape Sarr in there, then you also probably play Brennan Johnson because he's a little bit of a sniper as well for those sorts of things. So, is there any argument for Pape Sarr, or do you think he's a bench guy as well?
I mean, I would say he's a bench guy. I am not the biggest fan of Bissouma this season, but the last couple of games, I do think he's stepped up a little bit. And he does seem to play a little bit better when it's a bigger game. It's like he can't motivate himself for any other games. And then all of a sudden you get a bigger game. I mean, me and Drew and the Irish lads were saying the other week that, you know, when we saw Bissouma in the semi-finals, like, oh no, why? And then he goes and has a good game. And you think, well, fair enough, you know, he's sort of shown up. If he shows up, he's a brilliant player. If he doesn't show up, it's like playing with 10 men. So for me, I think Pape Sarr hasn't been great this season, but again, I would bring him on as that impact sub. And well, not so much impact, but bring him on as a sub and hope, you know, that a few shots go in. But I mean, Bentancur's got a good shot on him. You know, we've seen Tell sort of
really good in the air.
Yeah, we've seen Tell have an odd pot shot from outside the box. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing it. But we've said for the last year or two that we don't seem to shoot very much from outside the box. You know, we don't take those chances. Now, when we have done it, all of a sudden we score 1 or 2 goals. So maybe it's just a case of we try it. But I just see that we'll go back to that, how we've been playing over the last few games in Europe, where we're almost defending and we'll try and do it on the break.
But Man United are going to do exactly the same thing, right? It's going to be the stinkiest of stinkfest. If you are a betting man or woman, no disrespect, no prejudice, then you know, sell goals, right? Look for a 0-0 scoreline, and it goes to extra time, because I could just see this one being a kind of hot potato where no one wants the ball.
No, I disagree. I think there'll be goals early on. I kind of think Man U might actually come out, or they'll probably sit back and make us come on to them, which will obviously suit them. So I think it's going to be a real weird game, but I do think there'll be an early goal which will open the game up. And I'm hoping, obviously, we probably get it, and then we hit them another 2 times on the break and we win 3-1.
What say you, Kate?
First of all, the prejudice was quite enough yesterday on Savage Show when you said that women don't understand that us men need to go out and get it off our chests when we're older. And I said in the chat,
you don't understand. Generally, you may understand it, but women generally will never understand the need for men to hang around with men when they're in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. No chance.
I totally get it, but the difference is I would probably be like, please, can I come as well? Because that's where I'm much more comfortable talking about the footy. Look, I think we will go all out at them for the first 15 minutes and try and nick a goal.
You called me a sexist prick on that comment as well.
I did, yeah, in capital letters.
Yeah. Misogynist bastard. Yeah, fair enough.
I think we go all out the first 15, 20 minutes and try and nick an early goal, and then be more pragmatic and try and defend more, rather than it be a hot potato. I see us going at them, because I think that's how we're going to get them, if we get them early and then trying to drop deep, like Ange did against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, like he did about when we played Frankfurt away. Get at them early and then try and defend, which I'm quite happy to do that. Just get an early goal and defend the rest of the time. I don't see it being as cagey as everyone else thinks. I think we'll go full force at them, because Man United are quite slow starters in games. They tend to be late scorers. So I think we need to get at them nice and early. Get 1 or 2 goals, please God, on the board, and then sit back and see if they can break us down.
How do you? That's what you want to see, right? How do you actually see Is any of you three going? I take it none of you are going to be out in Bilbao, no?
Unfortunately.
How do you see the? I think so. I've got a feeling that my ticket hasn't arrived yet, but when it does, I've got a really bad feeling that it's going to be in the Man United end.
Oh my god!
But like, how do you see the actual game going? Do you like, as much as you might want us to get an early goal? Do you see it going that way, or do you seeing it being cagey? Do you seeing it? Do you see Man United getting the? If do you see the first goal scorer hanging on? Like, how do you guys see the? I'll start with Kate. How do you see the actual game going rather than what you want to happen? How do you see it going?
I see us going 2-0 up.
I love
them.
that.
Yeah, them scoring late on, sort of 70, 80 minutes, us all having a nervous breakdown, thinking this is it, we're going to crumble, but holding on and getting the 2-1 win. I said 3-2 originally. I said 2-2 and then going to extra time. But I've just got a feeling we're going to get them early and then literally hang on for dear life. But I think we'll score a couple of goals in the first half, going 2-0 up, and then they score say 70 odd minutes, give us all an absolute heart attack where we're watching from behind the sofa going, oh my god, we're going to crumble again, but we'll hold on for dear life.
If that's the way it plays out, I will not be able, even if I'm sat with like 20,000 Man United fans, I will not be able to hide my allegiance, and I think I might end up with a brick in my face or something. It's going to be I might be thrown out of the stadium before the end of the game. How about you guys? Do you see it the same way as Kate sees it, or do you and if so, how do you see us getting the goal? Like, I'm looking for Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie to have their best performances. I think that Pedro Porro is going to be vital, like more vital than ever before. Pinging balls in from deep, corner kicks, set pieces, that sort of thing. Just putting the ball in the area, hoping we can avoid that massive head of Harry Maguire, and then slot it in between their centre backs, and then get a Solanke top bins or a Richalison little slicer nod down, something like that. I can see us getting a goal from a set piece or from a deep cross. Thoughts?
You're going
Well, I see. This is why I want Richarlison to start, because I know they've got issues at centre back, and I know they play with three of them. But really, my only concern, like you just said, is Harry Maguire. I think he's really the only one capable of doing anything in the air, defensively and up front. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know who the other two they're going to be playing with, because everybody else is injured. So that's why I think if you play Solanke and Richarlison, and like you say, get Porro involved, get Udogie involved. And I know Udogie is not renowned for crossing, but if you can get those two in there bullying their centre backs, I'm with Kate. I think we go in at half time, a couple of goals up. And I even think we come out second half and they try and come at us, and I think we get another one. I've gone for a 3-0. I think it's going to actually be quite comfortable, and I could be absolutely delusional. And I've just seen Kate's face. So yeah, I just think we're going to be a little bit too much for them. I think we've this whole thing about the black and white photos on the wall and stuff like that, and us actually, I think it means more. I think Ange is going to try and put it into us that it means more to the fans and it means more to our players than it does to theirs. So yeah, I can see it being. I see it being a pretty nice day, to be honest, brother.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's obviously something in our household, isn't it? It's like I see it being 3-0. And then them scoring one late goal. Like I say, I don't know. I just have that goosebump feeling that we're lifting the cup, and it's not going to be an easy game. But I kind of also see it being, it's just ours. And I hope I'm not going to get clipped left, right, and centre and chucked it all back at me, but I could see it being 3-0 at half time and basically game over, and them scoring one later on.
I love this, mate. You're making me feel calmer about the whole thing, because I'm sitting here. I don't know if people in the live can notice this, right? But I'm like, my legs are sitting there, my knees are going. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm nervous, and when I do that, my legs sort of start bouncing around a little bit. I love the fact that you guys are saying 3-0. I even like Kate saying that we're 2-0 up. I'll take 2-0 up and go 2-1 down or 2-1 up and have to hang on. But I just see it being a stink festival. Sorry.
Yeah. Look, I mean, against Bodo, I was getting pelters saying, we've done it, we're already through. We don't need to worry about it. Don't worry about it. People were sending pelters. I mean, obviously, Johnny was telling us, look, the best players are to come back. We're going to get turned over at their place. I was still, no, we're going through. It's final. There's no worries. Clip it all you want.
I'm glad. You know what? Sorry, I'm glad you said that because I felt like I was losing my mind. By the way, who's this gentleman who's just joined us? Sorry, have I met you before?
No, my name's Lee.
Hi, Lee. Good to see you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. You?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Well, I'll bring you in just a second, buddy. Just to sort of riff off of what Soren's saying there. I'm really glad you brought up the Bodo thing, mate, because the amount, and I love, I love Johnny. He's my boy, right? He's absolutely my boy. And this is not just aimed at him, by the way. This is aimed at Henry. This is aimed at everyone that's a regular on my channel and everyone that's a regular on every other channel that I see that was saying to me, Saba did it as well. Loads of people did it, that Bodo ain't no mugs. Like I said this game isn't over. I said this game isn't over. And when we beat Bodo, I was out there in Norway. When we beat them, I was like, fair play to Ange and fair play to the team because they took a really tricky environment. It was horrible. The weather was horrendous. The pitch, the fans, they had their flares. It was a nasty atmosphere for to some degree until we started to score and then they shut up. But and then as soon as I come home, everyone's like, yeah, but it was just Bodo. And that wasn't what you were saying before the game, bro. Now you're moving the goalpost to let's not give too much credit to the people that I refuse to give credit to because now it's just Bodo. Before the game, you were like, this game isn't over, as I was. But I'm like, no, actually, the team do need credit. Ange does need to take some credit because it was a sticky situation. And, yeah, it turned out that they weren't that great. But maybe that's because we made them look bad. But ultimately, that same team had devastated 7 of their last 8 teams at home in Europe. Big names, right? Big teams. And so for Tottenham to go and do that, for Tottenham to go and do Frankfurt the way they did, I think that there's an element that we can't overlook that Tottenham mean business in Europe. I'll bring you in here, Lee. Welcome to the show, by the way, mate.
Luke.
What's your well, yeah, I mean, oh shit. Oh no. Hang on. Hang on. If you can still hear me, Lee, I'll let you crack on whilst I fix myself.
He's all gone. It's gone all Butler.
Yeah, no, I was listening just to you guys. Thought I'd pop on. Everyone's going to hate me a little bit for this because I appreciate it is a bit negative, but I just keep harping back to when has this team really been under the cosh in a pressured situation so far where there's some evidence of a parallel you can compare it to. And for me, I take our mind back to Carabao Cup semi-final. And okay, look, I know we had a weakened team compared to probably what we're going to put out, hopefully, for next week. And I get it's also obviously playing against Liverpool versus playing against Man United, where there's obviously a big difference. But what I see for me in that game, and it still resonates with me, was fear. I see absolute fear in our players where when the pressure was really on, they wilted. And that mentality piece is the piece for me where it just leaves me unsettled about what could we really expect when that pressure comes on, in that situation. And I get there's so much difference. It is Man U that we're playing. They've got loads of the problems themselves, but I just want to have more belief in those players and the ability just to be that mentality that we want them to. I'm just not sure.
Lee, was that not a really young, different lineup though that you're talking about?
Yeah, look, there is differences there. What to be honest though, what I didn't like when I say about the fear and stuff, I remember looking in the tunnel at Sonny, and Sonny was there like looking across at them like in this awe of, oh my God, this is Liverpool, this is the Carabao Cup semi, and and these are supposed to be our inspirational leaders that our youngsters would develop from. And I don't know. I don't want to feel that way. But it does.
No, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I mean, I look back at that squad. I mean, I think we had Kinsky in goal and Danzo and Archie Gray as our centre backs. Do you know what I mean? We had been, I think, probably just kicked so many times up to that point that while I mean, I get it. We capitulated and we did it a couple of times. I mean, even again, I would say probably there's even a bit more of an argument that we had a few more players back for the Arsenal game and we kind of looked as scared, if not more scared at that point than we maybe did for Liverpool. So I get where you're coming from. I don't know. I just think, especially in Europe, those last few games, the Romero and VDV partnership, I just think night and day makes us look better. I mean, there. You know, I'm not trying to discredit you at all. I get where you're coming from. There is an element because as much as I've said, you know, 3-0, 2 in the first half, 1 in the second. This is going to be easy. In the back of my mind, I'm also on the back of a 4-0 drubbing where we've conceded 2 quick goals and everybody's heads have just gone down. But I can't allow myself, I don't want to live the next 3 days thinking that's going to be the outcome, right? I don't know. Sean? Go on. Sorry, Lee, finish your point.
I was just going to say, again, I know I've heard it before and I do agree. That's why I think the first goal is so massive. If we get it, you know, there's some weak mentality, I think, with some of their lot as well, quite frankly. But if we can get that first goal, I can actually see a world where we go on and win the game quite comfortably. I hate it if they get that first.
Oh, go on.
That
first yellow card.
Sending off.
He's gone. He's back. He's back. Oh, mate. We lost you for a second there.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
What did you say?
But look, no, let's really hope it is. I'm wrong.
No, listen, I don't necessarily disagree. You know, I'm a little bit surprised, but happy to hear it from the other guys that they think we're going to be more comfortable. I personally think it's going to be a stink fest. I genuinely think that United don't have any real threat up front apart from Bruno, and we'll be aware of that. And I think that we could definitely do something akin to what we did with Mario Götze and also with Ekitike in the Frankfurt game and curtail those guys. And if we can, then you know you shut up Frankfurt. And I think the same thing happens with Bruno Fernandes. If you cut him out of the game, then you can do that. And that's probably an argument to play Pape Sarr alongside the other two, because if you cut out the midfield, then you cut out and you let Bissouma or Bentancur, one of those two. Although, to be honest, I don't really trust either of them man marking a guy who's as mobile and flexible and clever as Bruno Fernandes. But hopefully behind them, you've got, you know, Romero on top form. And if you do that, then I think that your threat really, I mean, maybe it comes down the width a little bit with Udogie and whoever will play on the right-hand side. But, and they've got a couple of options off the bench, right? Because they've got some of their players back. But I genuinely look at that squad and think if you cut out Fernandes, then you basically curtail most of their threat. And then I just look at us and go, are we going to miss too much if we cut out the midfield altogether by playing Pape Sarr and Bissouma and Bentancur? I argue no, we wouldn't, because I think that most of our threat can come aerially. As I said in a previous kind of rant, that where we're going to have opportunities is from corner kicks, set pieces, free kicks, deeper line crosses from Pedro Porro. And if you pick someone on the left wing forward that can get the flick downs from Richalison or from Solanke, then I think that you can have a lot of success against that right hand side of United. I'd also think that Destiny Udogie needs to be brilliant on the day, but not for the same reasons. I think that Destiny Udogie needs to be brilliant at getting up the pitch and then supporting whoever it is on the left hand side. I don't need to see him whipping the ball in. I need to see him getting the ball to the byline and supporting Sonny or whoever they go with. And I think that we've got every reason to think that there's chances. But ultimately, I could see both teams playing hot potato and going, well, both of our chances are increased if the other team has the ball. We pick them off, and on that basis, you're going to see a lot of like, well, when Man United have the ball, we're not going to necessarily press the way that Amorim thinks we are. And so they're going to have just a lot of patience, and we're going to have a lot of like, okay, have it. And once you finally get it forward to Bruno Fernandes, then we'll go, okay, now we're going to swarm you. But I think the same thing. So that's why I say I think it could in my mind, I think it could easily be 0-0. Stinkfest goes to extra time.
I was just going to say, actually, I could totally see that stink fest happening. I was just imagining. Can you imagine if we somehow get the flukiest goal in extra time and we just all shamelessly celebrate? It's been an absolute shocker of a game.
It won't be shameless.
We lift the cup and who cares?
There'll be no shame in the celebrating here.
Yeah. It'll be shameful. It'll be shameful. What I will do in front of the Man United fans will be shameful. I'll get my top off. I'll show my boobs to everybody, my pale, pasty body that hasn't seen the sun in about 7 years. That's coming out. It's not shameless, it's shameful. 100%. You bet that.
It'll be the only time a beer doesn't touch Sean's mouth because it'll be all over the United fans.
100%. 100%.
I mean, do we not think, though, that if we do get that early goal or even two, that United will sit there and start to think it's happening to us again against Tottenham? We've started to show we can beat them, even if they're not the same United team of past. But we've shown we can beat them, and it'll be in their mind as much as anything that we've already beaten them 2 or 3 times recently. So, if we get in there early, then the belief in our squad will be it's our year. That prick on all these YouTube channels keeps saying it's our year, and he's maybe talking some sense. And, if we can get the players to believe it as well, then for once we could just see this team actually growing confidence on a night and just take it apart. Yeah. We might not, but
I'd hope so, mate. I'd hope so. Listen, the stakes couldn't be higher, right, for Tottenham and for Manchester United. I've said it 1,000 times. I think the team that doesn't win gets maybe left behind because there's like a new world order emerging in football a little bit with Aston Villa, Newcastle, maybe now Crystal Palace. Congratulations to them as well. By the way, before I continue with my thought, guys, there's the links of Kate's channel, Kate and Jimbo, and also Drew, who is a channel owner or at least a channel supporter.
I just co-host.
Co-host on Spurs Die Hard's TTID, which is Adrian's and Ian Meth's channel, I believe. So please get over, guys. Smash their like and subscribe to them. Please also get over to Football Inc., my third channel. Go over to Sean Butler TV, and also obviously smash the like and subscribe on here. Links are all in the description. Guys, I wanted to move the conversation just forward for a split second to this notion of like what the hello doggy, hey. I wanted to make this. There's a connection here. We've spoken about this kind of game changer, sliding doors moment. Today, there's news out, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen for you so you can see it. That West Ham are also about to be potentially part of a new takeover bid from a co-owner of the Chelsea team, believe it or not. Which we'll go through I'm going to read through the article in a second and talk about the sort of the semantics of it. But just, again, there's a lot of back scratching that goes on in the Premier League. A lot of people that have relationships with teams that are, maybe not necessarily in the Premier League, but like the likes of Newcastle and Chelsea have relationships, and certainly Aston Villa, where they seem to have favours dawned upon them from Saudi Arabia, the people that are outside of the FFP, UEFA rules, and can do whatever they want with the endless sums of money they have. And if this story is true, and the fact that the guy who's going to be potentially taking them over and taking a majority stake is also a small but very real and relevant participant in the Chelsea story, then the takeaway from me is more than just the potential ramifications of West Ham being now owned by people that have got the ambition and the willingness to spend money, but it also will probably likely see a scenario where when there's new rules that are being voted on in the Premier League, where recently you've seen, Newcastle City, Villa, Chelsea, etc., voting against, and I said before, they only need 1 or 2 more people to be dissidents, then suddenly there's no more ability to implement new rules, right? And that's. Oh, sorry, Kate. You're not on mute, Kate. Whatever you're saying with your screen, I can hear you. But this is the story anyway.
Sorry.
That's all right. West Ham have issued a response to mounting speculation about a US bid for the club that is now being linked to a Chelsea co-owner. It was revealed last week that a mystery US investor was in talks to buy the Gold family's 25% stake in West Ham. The man greasing the wheels for the US West Ham bid was unmasked this week as the club's existing stakeholder, Albert Tripp Smith. But there was a big Chelsea twist to the situation yesterday when a top Hammer source claimed Blues part owner Mark Walter is involved. Guggenheim Partners CEO Walter co-owns Chelsea in another US consortium. It's believed he personally owns just under 13% of Chelsea, with Todd Bowley, a former president of Guggenheim Partners. The global investment firm, said to have over £260 billion in assets, and is well known to American investment executive Tripp Smith, who already owns 8% of West Ham as the co-founder of GSO Capital Partners. Just bear with us here. There's a lot of names being floated around, but essentially it's a tangled web of financial overlappings. The credit investment platform of the Blackstone Group. The Blackstone Group, don't forget, is owned by David Blitzer, who, of course, is part owner of Crystal Palace. Incredible how much these things all overlap. Ironically, back in 2022, Bowley was being linked with a West Ham takeover before eventually leading purchase of Chelsea. For what it's worth, he was also linked with Tottenham. It has been claimed the US bid could be part of a coup at West Ham by Tripp Smith, which would target the Gold family's 25% share to add to his 8%, but then also purchase Daniel Kretinsky's 27% stake as well. That it was claimed, could give the Tripp Smith and Guggenheim US consortium a controlling 60% of share of West Ham to outvote the remaining shareholders, chiefly David Sullivan. It was also claimed Kretinsky, who recent reports stated is considering selling his West Ham stake, could probably be persuaded to sell if someone doubles the 168 million quid he invested in 2021. Now, West Ham have responded to the Chelsea co-owner bid to claim big claim as the takeover starts to get real. It has been stressed previously that US bid is currently at this initial stage sitting with lawyers. It has struck many West Ham fans as odd that there appears to have been little interest in the Gold family stake since Vanessa Gold announced it was for sale in October 23, but it has now become clear that the estate has been held up in probate, which it has now exited, seeing the acceleration of the US bid. Anyway, the story goes on, but in a nutshell, guys, to not bore you, like this to me is a little bit terrifying. But like I say, I'm not too much worried about West Ham's ability to suddenly be at the top end of the pie. They won't be, or the table. They won't be, not for a long time, because you can't just suddenly turn new investment into, the ability to spend money that you don't have. You still have to adhere to the rules. But what I see the main threat in the initial stages is that these people that are interested in buying are also somewhat under the kind of umbrella of various subdivisions of investments, part of the group of people that will probably lean towards voting no on amendments to the rules. And if that is the case, then you can kiss goodbye to any tightening or any future and further closing of the loopholes that are wide open, gaping chasms in the current rules around PSR and FFP. And if West Ham join that cabal alongside the others that we already mentioned, then all you have left to do is to find one more, and then there will be no more changes to FFP. And given what happened in December with Manchester City already ruling, the courts already ruling in favour of them with regard to third-party transactions, and that whole thing being thrown up in the air, and then latterly the parking of the new financial fair play rules that were supposed to come in for next season regarding 70% in the Premier League, that's now on ice. If this happens, Daniel Levy is the poster boy of FFP. He's the guy. He can't join that group because he's the guy that's been spending his last 15 years of his life saying that what they do is unfair. So once again, I'm a little bit terrified around what this looks like for the eventual outcomes regarding fair and open discourse and a clean, clear, level playing field that has never existed in the Premier League, but looks increasingly less likely to ever exist in the future. So I'm not so worried about West Ham in the initial instance being suddenly a Champions League threat if this goes through. But what I am worried about is the byproduct ramifications of it. Any of you guys have any thoughts on this?
I just think the Premier League is going to almost disappear soon because it won't be long before this sort of type of corruption just overtakes totally, and everything that's voted on just goes the way of the richer clubs. And we've seen how that already works with the majority of trophies and things like that going to certain teams. So I won't be surprised if within the next few years it's just a Super League of Europe, because the Premier League and things like that will just disappear because they've got no power now. I mean, it's an absolute mockery the way things are going, that you see, the likes of Nottingham Forest suddenly, they get the points deductions, and other teams Everton get the points deductions instantly, and then you've got City, Chelsea, whoever else wants to just bypass all the rules because the money's there, and the Premier League, they've got no clout anymore. Whoever is the lawyers and things like that and drawing up these rules for the Premier League just need to be absolutely bombasted, because you can't just put a rule in place and expect these teams that are going to find the loopholes in it and not have any backup to argue against them. It's an absolute farce with the Premier League at the moment, and the sooner they're not in charge, the better. And to allow these teams to be bought out by basically the same group of owners to then manipulate any voting system in the future it's scandalous. It's absolutely scandalous. And look, most people are not a fan of Daniel Levy. Now, had the Premier League actually got the balls to back up what they'd put in place, and FFP was all in place and done properly, Daniel Levy would have actually looked like he'd done something right for once. But he's made to, he's been made to look like a fool, because the Premier League couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery, basically. So it's an absolute farce. It really is. And the sooner it's either stopped or teams get out of this system, then I don't see it getting any better. And all I see is, it's nice to see Liverpool win the league, because you kind of think they've done it the right way, in a sense. That they've built the team, they've built the players, and it's not just necessarily all been dirty money or whatever we want to call it. There's no clean money in football, I know, but it's crap seeing the way Chelsea and City just flaunt the rules. It's just wrong. It really is.
Does it make you guys like, first of all, I'd say that Daniel Levy does already, or people within the ecosystem within our overall ownership, already engage in clever accounting. Like, they do. They don't do it for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club's benefit. They do it for various, projects that they've got on the side. Like, there's £330 million of cash that's sitting in 13 subsidiaries that's tied up for whatever project's going on. There's no detail on what that's for. All you can do is assume that the one that's for hotel is for the hotel costs. But there's 13 other subsidiaries, right? £330 million sat in those accounts. So when I see articles and when I see people on TalkSport saying, like from Stefan Borson, saying that Tottenham are screwed in the summer because it's not because they don't make profits, it's because it's cash illiquid. And that's true. It is true to a degree, but it also means that you can rob Peter to pay Paul in the short term, right? You can move money around. We already do it, not to the same degree that Chelsea do, where they sell their left arm to their right arm and loan it back, like the women's team or whatever. They don't do that. We don't do that. We should do it to a degree. But if he does that, then he's also then guilty of being participating in the same dark arts that he has been an advocate to put laws in place to stop happening for the last 10 years. So he's then guilty of being a fraud, right? Or a hypocrite. But at this stage, where the direction of travel, boys and girls, is so clearly in one direction, where the rules don't seem to matter, and that there's just more and more people that are going to get on board it. It's a race to the bottom. I'm with Soren as much as, like, there is no clean money, and so we might as well advocate for, like, if there is a change of owner, then we might as well park our reservations around what that owner looks like, because the only way we're going to be able to compete in reality is if we get a new owner that doesn't look like Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but it looks like Sheikh Rattle and Roll from the Sultan of Brunei or whatever, right? And I just think that has to be the way to go if you do want and advocate for a new owner, because you don't want a Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but you do want a Sheikh Jassim, or you do want a QSI or whatever else, if you want a new owner, you know? Yeah, any thoughts, guys?
Just going to say on this for me, I absolutely agree with everything Soren was saying there. But do you not think, guys, this actually makes me fall out of love with football a bit, all of this? Like the lack of regulation now, and just, you know, we all see the backlash, what happened when they wanted the Super League, and, you know, how everyone stood up to it. But do you not just see that part by part, the lack of regulations, you know, you see the Champions League now and the additional places that are in that, and how that's suddenly changing, the Cup World Cup that's coming now. Then you start to see these things. And I don't know if you guys ever watched Stick to Football, that podcast, but you had Ruud Gullit on there, really interesting. And he was chatting away with all of them. And he met Todd Bowley about a month ago. And they got in conversation, just general chit chat. And he actually turned around to him and went, "Oh, so who are you and what do you do?" And really actually had to turn around and go, "I used to actually play football." And he went, "Oh, you're a footballer, were you? Who did you play for?" And just
he
like
wasn't half bad either.
so embarrassing. Like,
wow.
But the ownership now and the lack of regulations and what's able to go on, I find it just, it turns me a little bit off football now.
But do we not think though, we all talk about football and just pay them the wages they want, 250, 300,000 pounds a week, and we all expect the clubs and the football to be the same as it was 15, 20 years ago, when it was about the game, it was about the fans, it was about playing football on the pitch and the glory of winning a cup. It's not anymore. It's about money. The only thing that is important in football these days is money. Now, this is why when we all argue about, Tottenham want to finish top four, it's about the money. It's about, you know, being on that top stage and earning the money. It's not about suddenly winning cups. Look at it this season. Tottenham could win the European Cup or a Europa Cup, and all of a sudden we're more bothered about the Premier League and where we stand in the Premier League. And it's because of money. You know, we say, right, you know,
quickly, right? I know I'm guilty of this. How many people in the Tottenham online space, when they talk about the benefits of winning the Europa League, stop at, it's a cup that we haven't won for 40 years? So everyone, no matter how many people, no matter where you sit on the Levy out, like, you know, spectrum or whatever else, it's, we win a trophy, but we also get Champions League money. We're also back in the Champions League. That's like, it doesn't matter what people don't even realize they're saying it, but they are, like, what they're saying in that is that they recognize that the benefit of the trophy is less important than the benefit of the money that comes with the trophy win.
I've sat on panels at the beginning of the season in the summer of last season, and the amount of fans telling us, don't care where we finish in the league, we can be relegated as long as we win a cup. We're suddenly about to win a cup, and all of a sudden it's the Premier League that's more important. The only reason Daniel Levy is happy to keep Ange John at the moment is not because we're going to win a cup, it's because he could deliver Champions League for next season. And what does that bring? It brings money. It brings that's all that it's about. Now, us fans, we're desperate for this cup. And don't get me wrong, I'd rather win the Europa Cup than the FA Cup or the League, the Carabao Cup. It didn't matter which cup we was going to win. You know, we've sat on panels where I don't care where we finish, as long as we win the Carabao Cup, that'll do me. We're about to win a Europa Cup, and I say we are about to win the Europa Cup, and we will be in the Champions League next season. And it's all about the money. It's not about winning that cup anymore. It's, you know, us fans.
Everyone, this is the goalpost. This is the moving in the goalpost that I talk about, right? I've been on the same panels. I remember 2-3 years ago. I remember hearing like Lee Gunner, and everyone waxes lyrical, right? Because it's super easy. I see him on every show. I see people that have him on his channel, on their channels, and then go, Lee cooks X and Y and Z, right? No disrespect to the guy. I think he's created a very interesting and very, whether he did it by design or by he's fluked it and landed on it, but it's so easy to always predict the losing lottery numbers. I saw a show with him the other day. Yesterday. It was on my man Dan Potts' 12th Man podcast. It was a clip. It was Lee crashes the show and cooks some guy, right?
Yeah.
And this guy was basically saying that Arsenal were doing things and we're still okay. We're second, where we're still doing. And Lee's like, yeah, but look at what's happening with this team in Holland that out of nowhere has won a trophy for the first time in 90 years. Same thing has happened with a new manager in Saudi Arabia, first time in their history. Same in Spain, same in France, same in yada yada yada. And all of a sudden, the story's pivoted to Arteta's a failure because there's other people out there that have had a trophy success in one season of management, right? And to me, again, no disrespect to him, I'm not calling him out as in like what he's saying is nonsense. It isn't nonsense. What he's saying is factually accurate. But like, there's always going to be the anomalies to the rule. There's always going to be the exceptions. And if you are someone that leans into, I am right because I predict the losing lottery numbers, and I can point to the people that won the lottery and say, why doesn't Arteta do that? That's why we should sack Arteta, right? And I don't care about Arteta. I don't care about Arsenal. But how do we extrapolate that, right? We extrapolate that to be, you're a fan, and there's millions of people that buy into this notion because it's so easy to be unhappy. It's so easy to look everywhere else and find someone somewhere in the world where the grass is greener temporarily, right? And you go, well, that's what we should do. So what you're actually saying there is, if your manager doesn't win something in the first season, then sack him because someone won the lottery. It's like having a wife who's angry with you because you work fucking hard and you earn 100 grand a year, but she's pissed off with you because your next door neighbor won the lottery. Like, what are we doing here? It's a nonsense way to approach football. But as a content creator and as an opinion piece, it works because you're right. And if you lean into failure is unacceptable because there's other people that have moments of success, next season there'll be two other teams somewhere that Lee can point to that will have momentary success. Right. And then say that's another reason why you should never have a project ever again, because phase five is bullshit. Other teams do it in phase one. And I just think that's like that whole notion around Tottenham fans moving the goalposts from top four isn't a trophy. This season has been a wonderful demonstration that top four isn't a trophy, but top four is more important than you think it is, because how many fans really want to recreate this season every year? Do you really want to finish 17th every year and maybe win a trophy in the Europa League? I'll tolerate it once, but I don't want this to happen next season. I don't want to. I don't want if we win it and someone says, "Do you want to replicate that next 2025, 26?" The answer is no. Fuck that. I want us to get back to our bread and butter.
I'll tell you what,
and see what happens in the cups.
It's crazy that we actually gone down this rabbit hole, because I was actually writing down some questions this morning for a show that I was going to do next week, and I'll read this out to you because it's odd. Right, given the results yesterday and in February, is there an argument that Palace and Newcastle have had a better season than Manchester City and that lot up the road? If the answer is no, then ultimately Champions League qualification is more important than a cup. If I'd have asked you at the beginning of the season, regardless of how it's done and which cup, would you take qualification to the Champions League and winning a piece of silverware? You'd have probably said yes. So there's an argument that although the season has been horrific week to week, that the season overall has been a success because the parameters laid out at the beginning of the season have been met. So basically, it's all just completely fucking subjective. Do you know what I mean? The parameters of a successful season are based completely on what you think it should be, you know?
Unless you overly simplify it, which people want to do, to say... Right. A season with a trophy is successful, one without is failure. Again, fine, if that's what you want to do. But I think it's such a massive oversimplification of it's such an overly... The amount of variables that dictate how your season shapes up is like almost infinite variables, not just within your own club, but within every other club that you're competing with. And in Europe, all of the other clubs in all of their leagues as well, right? I find the whole thing just overly simplified by people that want to be right, and then they will lean into the idea that their club's not good enough because other teams are doing better in the moment. I'm not being funny, but if you're an Arsenal fan, and you're furious with what's going on, I don't know. Like I just sit there and think, yeah, okay. Eventually, you've got to win something. Otherwise, you've got to move on. And maybe it's time for Arteta to move on. But 5 years is fair enough. But to sit there and point to like teams in Holland that haven't won shit, and there's some guys come in and become manager for 9 months and won something, and that's the reason that like what you're arguing for is immediate success or fuck off, or like get out of my club, and that costs a lot of fucking money because no one's going to come into your club at Arsenal for less than a 3 or 4 year contract, and then you'll be complaining about the fact you haven't got any money to spend. But you were the advocate why that previous guy, has just been sacked with a £80 million payoff. Like it's a nonsense argument that is also propagated by Tottenham fans who move the goalposts. The goalposts are very easy to move, especially if you advocate for solutions that are entirely unlikely to ever manifest. I can see you, Lee. We got our Tottenham back. Does that suggest that's a bit of a piss take name because are you Levy out? I can infer that you're Levy out.
Yeah, I am actually. And interestingly, I think it's. I was just thinking of a recent chat I had with a mate of mine who he's an Arsenal fan. And he was talking staunchly that he wants Arteta out. It's kind of linked into this whole thing, and I think you can draw a lot of parallels with their current position to us under Pochettino, and that whole era. As in, and if you think about it, you know what happened under what did we do? There was this pressure about. Actually, we need to go and get a manager who can get it over the line. Maybe Pot's just, he's the bridesmaid, never the bride kind of thing. Rather than actually, have we, in my opinion, invested on 3 quality players when we really needed to, then actually we'd have kicked on and naturally we'd have won stuff anyway. But we fell into that trap of, actually, let's get a new manager, Levy actually bottling it and going with the sort of the strong opinion of many, and everything that's we've all seen really. And I also think the similar argument comes back into, they keep saying, well, why did we not just go and get a striker in January? And I think it's the same situation we had where it's that 18 months we didn't buy anyone when we were at our peak and didn't invest. It's because actually they've got an ownership where they're happy with, they're making their money, and that's the bottom line. It comes down to, do you really want it enough to go and actually get that? Because, is the risk worth the reward to them? And what are their real motivations when it comes down to it?
But just
they
to jump in there
have
quickly,
spent a lot of money, though. They spent £1 billion, I think, 800 million quid or whatever that he's had, like $1 billion or something. It's a lot of money. But again, there's variables, right? Like, it's not as simple as, you spend the most money, you win the league. It doesn't work that way. It has proven to be that in the past, but it doesn't work that way because Arsenal are not. I mean, they've got owners that have got insanely deep pockets, but again, you're competing against nation states, and also, I'm not sure Arsenal have quite the same draw as Manchester City do and Liverpool do, right? And they can compete with Chelsea potentially, but like Man City, we don't know the 115 charges outcome. They won the recent court case. Again, they've got smarter minds in the room looking for ways to defend themselves than they have prosecuting them. But to me, I'm like, look at Chelsea. Perfect example. Abramovich transformed that club. 2011-12, I think it was. Before he came in, Chelsea were nowhere. He comes in before the rules and then just bought up all the players that they wanted because he had a different relationship with money. Then the rules were put in place. They were loose. They didn't really have any kind of any merit. And even in that period, Chelsea have already paid a fine, a relatively insignificant fine, but a fine under the new owner who said, yeah, look, maybe the previous owner did some things that were, behind. So let's pay a fine. Let's get in front of it. Let's try and push it under the rug. And the Premier League accepted a fine from them. They are still to this day benefiting from the byproduct benefits of their deceit. And other teams like Tottenham are still to this day a victim of the byproduct negatives of competing with teams like Chelsea, because Chelsea and Tottenham go man for man or club for club for a player. And that player is going to choose Chelsea primarily because Chelsea have a better track record of winning trophies. But they won those trophies when they had either a series of time where there was no rules in place to stop them doing what they were doing, or when there were rules in place, they still broke those rules. Roman Abramovich's PA, for example, was paid her money via property off the books rather than doing it through the books. And had they done it through the books, they wouldn't have been able to do what they did. Think about Willian, right? He was at Tottenham's training ground when he ended up going to Chelsea when they were breaking the rules. And he was a player of the season in the year when they won the league, right? So Tottenham could have had that player. Doesn't mean that we would have won the league, but there's a whole new timeline of reality. But to this day, Tottenham, if they want to go and sign a player that's thinking about going somewhere else, we have to get our manager on the phone and beg and plead and spin the story as to why they want to come here. Chelsea don't have to do that. Man City don't have to do that. Liverpool don't have to do that. Arsenal probably do to a degree, but so I just think that like there's context to everything that's going on. People think it's over. People overly simplify the role of we spent 800 million, therefore Arteta's a failure. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I'm not going to sit here and I don't care about him. I don't care about I don't feel strongly about it either way. But just the notion that if you fail to win a trophy, you have failed because other people do it occasionally here, there, and everywhere. And next season there'll be 3 other examples of the same idea, but those teams won't do better consistently. I think that fans need to take a step back a little bit and bake in the context of not just what you're doing, but what else is happening in the relative leagues before you overly simplify an argument to make a point so that you can be right on a fucking podcast.
Do we not think, Sean, that if Tottenham, say we go and win the Europa League this season, we get into Champions League next season and we finish top 4, all of a sudden it's rosy for a year or two, but because that's as far as we get, same as what Arsenal are doing, they've challenged for the title, they haven't got that, they haven't gone over the line. If all of a sudden they got over the line, then the fans are suddenly happy again. If we win the Europa and we Champions League, we do a good run, we finish top 4 next season, all of a sudden this season's kind of forgotten a little bit. And then the season after we finish top 4, maybe another trophy. But then after 2 or 3 years of doing that, it's boring again because we want more. We want the league instead, or we want Champions League instead. It's a perfect saying. The grass is always greener on the other side. If you'd have said last season, and many fans said it, look, and I'm not advocating for the way the form has been in the Premier League, but if we said, yeah, you finished 17th, but you are winning a trophy next season, and then you're going to go on and be successful for a few seasons, we'd all take it. We'd all take it. But as soon as it becomes reality, nobody wants it. But if it suddenly kicks on next season and we do start winning things, it's forgotten about until it becomes boring again that we're only winning a cup every couple of years. And it's only say a Carabao Cup or it's only a top 4 place. It's suddenly not enough again.
That's the human condition, isn't it? Like, what have you done for me lately? And it's about consumerism. Like, whatever you've got, it's not enough. You want the next, right? As soon as we win, when we win that trophy on Wednesday, none of us. I'm going to bring in the guys here. Bring in Brian. I want to get Kate's take as well, and whoever's just joined the stream, a man called Parker, Helen Parker. Good to see you, buddy. I'll bring you in a minute. Kate, I'll start with you. Like, it's just that the last thing I'll say, because I always never want to do this, but I always end up talking too much. The reality is that we don't lift the trophy. It's not our trophy, right? I think people have this condition where they think that if you don't see the problems, then you're a loser. You're the loser mentality of Tottenham fans or whatever. It's not your trophy. It's not yours. You are a irrelevant observer of other people's success or failure. So stop confusing like what they're doing with your life, right? Like it's you're not a winner because you expect unreasonable outcomes from people that you don't have any control over. And stop thinking that you're a loser if other people tell you that you are because you're more patient or considerate of the things and the variables that dictate those outcomes. But, to Soren's point, the grass isn't always greener. And as soon as that trophy's put in the cabinet on Wednesday night, immediately Thursday morning, we'll have a celebratory stream. We'll be like, Champions of Europe, you'll never sing that to Arsenal or whatever else. And then as soon as that finishes, we'll do the bus parade. And then we'll be going, well, now what? Now we're back on the transfer policy because it's momentary at most. And then we get on to like what we're doing next, right? I don't know if you disagree, Kate.
No, I agree. I mean, what I was thinking as someone was talking is I hear exactly what you're saying and I agree with what you're saying. But are you advocating then that we keep Ange Postecoglou if he wins? No. Oh, you're not. That's what I was just wondering.
Look, I've said it all along that while Angie's our manager, I'll back him, and I'll back any manager that we have. I've never wanted Ange as our manager, but I do say that, look, give him time, and if he actually produces a trophy, he's done exactly what we wanted him to do. If he doesn't, I mean, I firmly believe that he's not going to be here next season anyway. It doesn't matter what happens. There is change afoot. And I think it was Sean that said it, that Ange is the manager before the manager that does it. And I think that is exactly the way it's going to be.
The guy before the guy, is what I say. The guy before the guy.
And look, if Paratici comes in, Ange isn't staying. It doesn't matter what happens. Ange's not staying. And I think the way the league has gone this season, that basically Ange's going to be the guy that comes in and, as stupid as it sounds, be our most successful manager for however long, because he's won as a European trophy, and he's gonna be said, right, goodbye, and he's gonna be, yeah, I did exactly what I said. I've won in my second year, and off I go. And then we're gonna get somebody like a Glasner or something like that, and it will kick on. Now, I just think that, yes, I've sat here many a time and said, we need to give him time, we need to give him time. The league formers, there is no defending what's happened in the league. There isn't a single Spurs fan, whether you're Ange in, Ange out, or whatever you want to call it, that would defend that. But it's kind of justified if we go and win the Europa Cup, because he has delivered what every single Tottenham fan wanted, which is a trophy. That's, there isn't a single fan that would say, I don't want a trophy because I want to finish 11th instead of 17th. But every fan would say, yeah, I want a trophy, but it's not good enough to carry on next season. And I don't care. I've had this argument with Jack and Dave that I don't care what happens with the Europa Cup. Ange's gone. I don't even think Daniel Levy would keep him on if he delivered the Europa Cup, and I don't think he'll be manager start next season.
No, I agree. Look, I just think it's like the whole Arteta debate. I look at Arteta and I think, is he the guy to get him over the line, or is it just because they haven't got the squad good enough to get him over the line? But I don't see anyone that Arsenal could bring in right now that guarantees them to get them over the line. And this whole simplifying it, where if you win a trophy, you're a winner. Like, a lot of people call Harry Kane a loser because he never won nothing at Spurs. I know he's just won the Bundesliga. There's only ever four.
Now he's a winner. He was a loser last season. Now he's a winner. What are we doing?
But apparently, it's only the Bundesliga, so it doesn't really count anyway.
He's still a loser, is he? Still a loser.
So you can't say it when there's only 4 trophies a season that can be won. I mean, who would have thought that Newcastle would win one, Palace would win one, Man City wouldn't win anything this season? This is why we all love football, and I think it's dangerous to put it in boxes and say, look, if you don't win a trophy this year or next year, then you've got to be sacked, you're a loser. Because, like you say, it's not just the 4 trophies. You've got to take into account so many different things. There's so many variables that could come into it. It's like when people first were slagging Ange off and I was backing him up, and I was trying to explain that you've got to put it in context. Other managers like Conte, Mourinho had Harry Kane in their squad, who used to bail us out all the time with a goal here and there to win games we wouldn't have won. 100%. So it's really difficult to sort of compare these things because of the context. But I just want to get this one on Wednesday, and then we'll worry about when the next one's coming. Once we've got this one.
That's the thing though, Kate, right? Like, the second that we win that, we will have 24, 48, 72 hours of celebration, and then it's on to the next. Right, then we'll go, okay, now what? Now what are we doing? To Soren's point, I want to bring Drew. You haven't spoken for a while. Sorry, Brian. I know you're waiting patiently in Park as well.
Good, mate.
I want to get.
I feel like it's going to be halfway. They'll be halfway through the celebrations of lifting the cup, and there's going to be supporters cheering and going, "Yeah, but he's got to go, isn't he?" Like, it's just the way it's going to be. Yeah. I guarantee it. They'll be high-fiving, loving it, and saying, "Yeah, but he's got to go." And that's just the way of the world. I personally,
are you Ange out regardless, or are you Ange in if he wins?
Do you know what? I just want things to work. I'm not a pitchfork guy. I'm not Ange in, Ange out, and I know that sounds like splinters. I just want shit to work. So if I can't see him walking away, because I can't see him giving up Champions League football. I think I've said it on your show a couple of weeks back that I think he's maybe dug himself enough of a grave that if Levy did turn around at the end of the season and fire him, and then there was any sort of backlash, then Levy's quite clever because he can go, well, hang on a minute. You lot said you wanted him out. Like the general consensus was that none of you like him. So what have I done wrong? So I think Levy's in a bit of a win-win in that regard. I think if you're getting a changing of the guard in terms of Vinay coming in, Munn leaving, Paratici potentially coming back, I don't think Ange is Paratici's man, but then there's rumours that Langer's still staying. So I don't know. I mean, I can't see Levy honestly giving up 5 million quid just to sack Ange anyway, because they think he's stingy with money like that. So I can just see a scenario where I think it's two different pathways, right? If we lose on Wednesday, then I think it's a lot easier. Just there's a natural separation point there. Thanks very much. Sorry about it. If he wins, I think it becomes a little bit more complicated. But I think from the club's point of view, I think there's a chance for everyone just to take a deep breath, for everyone above to maybe get some sort of structure in place. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anyone, but regardless of fickle fans and how we might perceive the situation, I think so long as they get it sorted out and we can actually start seeing a real structure there. And I include myself in the fickle fans, right? Because I am one of those fans that will turn around 1 minute and say, well, Levy, just get it done, pay 5 million more, get the player over the line. And then 3 months later, if that player hasn't hit the ground running, I'm saying, we'll just sell him for a deficit because I don't want him at my club. And that's the way that things, you know what I mean? That's the way that it just pans out sometimes. So I can see a scenario if he wins where he's given more time. And if that ends up being more rope to hang himself with and we end up with somebody else come November, then so be it. But there's just so many things hinging on Wednesday night that it's really, really hard to call. And I'll finish that point there and let kind of Brian and Parker have a say because they've
just to be really rude and jump in there, Sean. I think you've just put the perfect comment up that if we win, you know, Crystal Palace have won blah 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 to win the FA Cup, but if we win, another one. But if we win the Europa Cup, we haven't beaten anybody. Who gives a monkey shit who we've beaten along the way if we actually win the trophy? It doesn't matter who we've won the trophy. It's the look has been at. Are we all really going to stand there and say we won, but it's not a celebration because we didn't win anybody? We've won every team we've played. That's the point.
You can only beat what's in front of you. But for what it's worth, I also think when I see Arsenal fans, and this is where I'm going to criticise them, suggesting that Community Shield trophies count as majors. For me, to win a major, you have to be. There has to be more than one other team that can enter the trophy, and like the fact that no one else can be a participant in the Community Shield apart from the winner of the league and the FA Cup, I don't think it counts. Right. Brian, mate, how you doing, buddy? So I know you've been waiting for a while, mate. And also, Parker, I'll come to you after next, mate. How you doing, Brian? Good to see you, mate. Take it where you want. We're talking about obviously. I guess now we've moved on to Ange, but yeah. What do you want to say?
I just want to. I think it kind of feeds into the points you're making. There was a good moment on Ben and Sim show there a few days ago. Brian Daigle was on, and he was. Sim said to him, "Brian, you would have been happy. You said last year that you would have been happy with a trophy and finishing 17th, and now you're saying I'm really annoyed about this, right?"
Yeah.
And so he's like, but this is different. This is terrible. What's going on, right? But Sim said to him, "What did you think 17th looked like?" You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sim is fucking brilliant at calling. He's got receipts for everything. He remembers everything.
Yeah. I love Brian's passion, but he's an emotional thinker, and it was just funny to see, and that represents so many people, like probably including me. But like, you know, 17th. This is how 17th looks. It's not pretty.
Yeah, no, I hear you, mate. I hear you. But what's your thoughts on the game, mate? On Wednesday?
I have a good feeling about it. Yeah, I think with the better team.
Who would you like to see in the front four?
I think Odegaard played quite well in the number 10. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I thought he showed us different things that I didn't know he had. So I'd start him there, and I'd probably play Solanke and Richie on the left and Johnson on the right to start. And then you have options off the bench as well.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that. It's an option.
Yeah.
Do you think that when Amorim...
I think we'll end up with Solanke in the number 10 eventually, like later on.
Yeah.
With Richie up front.
In the game or later on in his career at Tottenham?
No, in the game.
In the game, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't hate that, mate. Like one of the byproduct benefits of this, I've got to be entirely honest with you. Forget about Berghvall for a second. I actually think that this whole Decky argument, it's a nightmare we've lost Decky. I think it's a nightmare we've lost Maddison. The Decky, I'm not so sure. I actually think
he wasn't playing well.
He wasn't playing well.
No.
He's absolutely burnt himself out this year.
Yeah.
And I think if he's fit, he absolutely plays and starts. And then you know, unless he's going to break the mold of late, then he was going to probably underperform. Whereas at least with what we're going through now, there's a level of unpredictability where nobody on this panel, nor anybody in the chat, nor anybody on any other channel that I've watched can figure out exactly what our starting 11 is going to be. And if we can't do it, then Ruben Amorim sure as fuck can't. And that to me is a benefit, right? Because unpredictability is important. You know, if you don't know what you're facing, then you can't plan for a simple plan A. You have to spend time on the training ground considering, well, what do we do if Odegaard's in the 10? What do we do if Solanke's in the 10? What do we do if it's Sonny on the left, or if it's Tell, or if it's...
We're also a completely different team in Europe this year. Like that, it's a complete contradiction. Tottenham Hotspur season, and himself is a complete contradiction. As you say, he talks out of both sides of his mouth all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the league form and the way we play in the league and the way we play in Europe, and it's different. And it's the players don't get into the same positions in Europe as they do in the league. They play in a far more pragmatic way. Like they don't overplay out of the back, or all that stuff is different in Europe. And it's just so confusing. And also, one thing that makes I'm mostly Ange out because there's several reasons why history will probably repeat itself next season, including the injuries, because the system lends itself to all that stuff. The way they constantly press and then they get played through and they 50-yard sprints back and all that stuff. But the thing that I think about is Alex Ferguson when he was 16th in the table fighting relegation and he won the FA Cup. And there's just a little niggle in me there that thinks about that maybe it's more like football isn't always logical, you know. Sometimes
very, very rarely logical, to be honest.
Sometimes things can click into place that you didn't see coming anywhere.
Yeah, I hear you.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm not. Look, if it was up to me, he'd be gone. But there's a little part of me that thinks about the way he's brought the team together, the way they've bonded, the way they have a focus on winning the trophy. And it's almost like he said, "I'm winning a trophy in my second season," and he put that message into the players: "You're going to be the group that does it." And then it's almost like when they were out of the league, in their mindset was, "We're going to win that trophy." So everything was very early on winning the trophy.
Mate, 100%. And like I've always said, there is an unknown around what version of Tottenham you're going to see next year if Ange does stay.
Yes, yeah.
If we win the cup, because there is that unknown element of having 19, 20, 21-year-olds that have got a Europa League winners medal in their cabinet. What that can do for a group of people, it's a unifier, right? It's like a glue that makes them maybe just act in a different way next season and maybe get things done. I'm not hanging my hat on it, but that's definitely something to consider for sure.
The other factor is that every time we've won a cup in the last 30 years, we were shocking in the league. That's just something we have to change as a club.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, just to that point, really quickly, because Mo THFC, big up in the chat, says we should. I think he's responded to somebody. He says we should be happy in Europe and forget the 21 losses in the Premier League. But the thing is that you kind of will forget the 21 losses. Like, I can't remember how many losses we had in the league last time we won a cup. You know what I mean? Unless you're a real kind of statophile sitting here absolutely obsessing over the numbers. I mean, I don't know. I mean, with all due respect to anybody here, can anyone tell me how many losses we had 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago in any particular league campaign? Oh, there you go. You know.
No, listen, I hear you. But at the same time, I still think there's a this season.
As a one-off.
As a bit of as a one-off, but like you can't just ignore it. Sorry.
Yeah, the fans going to every home game, you can't tell them to ignore that.
Yeah, no, that's
paying the money. That's the thing. Sorry,
Parker, Parker. Let me introduce you, mate. Welcome to the show, mate. It's your first time on the channel, I take it.
Yeah. Well, I've watched your channel a few times. I like what you have to say. I think you're quite well grounded. I think also. Because my brother's not the biggest fan of yours, but I think you're because he thinks you're very much Levy in, but I know where you're coming from, and I know obviously you're a businessman, you like the business side of things, and I understand what you're saying.
I'm not anyway, mate. I'm neither Levy in nor Levy out. I'm like,
I know.
Show me a solution. Don't bring me a problem. Levy out's a problem that's not solved. Whatever in is the solution. I want to see what that looks like before I get on board it. You know,
isn't it just nice to know that far and wide, Sean, you're discussed over a dinner table?
It's such a great intro, though, isn't it? My brother don't like you, but I thought I'd come on to see what you like myself.
Yeah.
He's been called a Levy. He's been called a Levy. Insert the 3 dots.
Yeah.
Many things.
But
I've been called all sorts. So it's just.
But it's partly about like what Brian had to say when he was talking about Brian Daigle, sorry, and also just about Ange as well. So and Levy, like all 3 things, because I want Ange gone. I think it gets to a point where if you're arguing with fans nearly every game, that's not on, and. For me, also, it just one of the several factors that Levy doesn't care about fans is that you have a manager arguing with fans and calling out fans, and he stays. But if a manager calls out him, like Conte,
that's a really interesting take. I haven't heard that. Really interesting, actually. That's a good point.
He's literally gone.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show Levy's opinion and how much he doesn't read the room in certain aspects. When it in my view of like the whole Levy in, Levy out, when it comes down to transfers and wages, I've got a bit tired of talking about stuff like that, because at the end of the day, you could sign prime Lionel Messi and he could break his leg literally the next day. Buying players is like buying stocks. Basically, it's a risk. Every single transfer is a risk. He does need to improve the wage structure. That's one thing I would say I have criticism for. But other than that, the other stuff I can't get on board with is and what I don't think enough Spurs fans talk about is, again, the treatment of fans when it comes to everything like prices and stuff like that. I think Spurs fans, and for example, when Brian mentioned about Brian Daigle, like I used to host Twitter Spaces back in the day, and I used to have Brian, I used to have Johnny, all of them. I said, look, it's one thing having a protest, but what are you guys all protesting about? And I said I only wanted one of you to say, I gave them a chance to say one thing and one thing only each. And they all had different things. And I said, that's not enough for me to join your protest. None of you have...
What were the kind of most common answers? Was it
Brian, I've said to Brian several times, I said, I guarantee you, because he would talk about transfers and the players coming in and the success of the club, and I said success is not guaranteed. You can't. That's not enough for me to want a chairman to go. My opinion, I think Alan Sugar, for example, got a lot of unfair hate towards him because of the way he treated Terry Venables, when it was after proven that Terry Venables was taking money out of the club and he wasn't doing things the right way either. And Alan Sugar saved the club from going into administration, yet everyone says, can you remember the 90s though and how bad they were? We won 2 trophies and he saved the club from going under.
Do you know what, mate? I've been asking my dad. My dad was the stockbroker who dealt with Terry Venables selling his stock onto the market rather than giving it to Alan Sugar. And Alan Sugar phoned my dad up and said, I'll make sure you never work in stockbroking again. And my dad just laughed at him. But I've been asking my dad for 3 years to come onto the channel to explain that whole story, because there's so much that he's told me that about what happened in that whole Terry Venables saga. I've seen the hate you get. I think I'll pass. Thanks, mate.
but there's the thing as well with I mean, I saw a really good thing from Sky Sports that they did once where about if they had transfers from the beginning of the Premier League, if you had with today's inflation, Alan Sugar brought in the most expensive Spurs player ever. If he was into that with today's inflation of Les Ferdinand, so that just goes to show how much unnecessary hate he got at the club. And I think again, like you've got the fans like Brian de Gaulle, and I got on really well with him. He's a really lovely guy. I haven't got anything bad to say about him, but I think him and quite a lot of fans, I think their minds could easily be changed if we won a few cups, and for me, that's not enough. I need to see how the fans are treated.
Parker, I disagree. I think there's certain fans in the fan base that have, like, once you put your face above the parapet, right? Everyone on this channel, Parker, I don't know. I mean, you said you're doing Twitter Spaces. Twitter's slightly more anonymous, right? But like, if you come on the channel more, and you're more than welcome to. People start to can attach your face to your opinions, and then people start to get embedded in the trenches, and they start to. And maybe I'm even guilty of it. I hope I'm not, but like, I don't think I defend Daniel Levy. Defend the indefensible. I think I just try to bring context. But people like your brother, for example, who may not watch my channel, but may see me on other channels where I get rolled out when there's a Levy moment.
No, that's true.
Debating certain people, and therefore I'm always likely to sound like I lean into being a Levy inner. I'm not. I criticize Daniel Levy all the time, but I think that certain people, most people on this panel that spend their time and have a channel, Kate does it for sure. Well, Kate would know what I'm saying, rather, for sure. That's you, Kate. You can shed some light on this. You end up like being entrenched in your opinion because you're worried about the idea of saying something. It's human nature, right? Like you've said something enough times, and then suddenly there's evidence that maybe you're wrong about it. You end up trying to find a reason to not be wrong, right? Because it's like it's part of your ego, part of your personality that's attached to opinions. And the biggest problem with people in content is that they attach themselves to opinions that don't really matter.
Yeah, your opinion is your product.
Exactly, 100%. Hey, I mean, I don't know if you feel that way at all.
Well, I'm the biggest flip-flop in the world. Everyone knows that. I change my mind all the time. And it used to really bother me when people called me a flip-flop. I used to think it's so insulting, but now I just embrace it because, you know what? I think the most intelligent people change their minds based on new evidence that's presented to them. So it's never been something that I sort of decide to choose to stream by. I'm not that passionate about one particular thing where I live and die on a hill for it. You know, I've advocated ever since I started my channel that I want Poch back. And I get rips of shit because of it, but I still want it back to this day. And I think that he is the guy after the guy to come back in. But there are a lot of people.
I think now, given the environment of his World Cup and the fact that even if America go slightly deep in the World Cup pause, I think that he will. He'll have to be the guy after the guy before the guy because it's too late in next summer for him to come back and do anything, you know?
Exactly. But I think these people that are diehard of a certain opinion, no matter what evidence you present in front of them, because they've built their whole channel or their whole persona on that opinion, they never change, because it'd look like they're backing down or that they're wrong. You know, I changed my mind about Ange. I tried to back him all the way through until about 3 or 4 months ago. And I was told by certain people I should apologise to them because they called Ange out sooner. And I'm like, are you serious? YouTube is a bizarre world. I've never met. Some men on YouTube are like no man I've ever met in my life. They're so.
Yeah, but here's the thing, mate. Every single person that's on this panel, sorry, all of you. I don't know very many of you that well. I've never met any of you. I don't think in person. But I met you. Have I met you, Kate? I'm not sure I have. I don't think I have.
No.
But like, the reality is that any single person that's willing to put their face on a camera and talk about their opinions, I don't care whether you deny it or not. You all have egos. You all have strong opinions, and you all want to be right. And everybody in the comment section loves to tell people that they think have egos that they're wrong. And so with that, that's the medicine that you have to take, right? People in the comments can change their opinion and change their name, and no one will remember. But in YouTube, everyone's got receipts. Everyone's got receipts. You know, I've got so many receipts. I'm like a fucking Tesco's till, mate. I've got so many receipts of things that people have said.
I was wearing a blonde wig in Norway, and I met you in a nightclub, Shawnee.
At the start of the season, I was one of the people that said, I'll take 17th. I don't care as long as we get a trophy. And now I'm going, no, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
But that's me. I am a flip-flop.
Never again.
Well, the greatest argument was not this Christmas, just gone the Christmas before, Ange would be sacked. And then he wasn't surviving the summer. And then he was going to be sacked, but no later than December. Now he's still here at the end of the season, and he might go, but them same people will, I told you so. I told you. But you told us 2 years ago he was going to get sacked, not 2 years on. And this is the problem, that if you pick 6 or 7 things to be negative about, eventually one will come right, or 2 or 3 will come right. And all you then get is, I told you so. Well, if we go on and win the Europa League, I told you we was going to win a cup. But yeah, it's still negative. These are the things that are just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's easy to lean, mate. It's always easy to lean negative because you're going to be right. I've said this 1,000 times. I made a short about this within 2 months of me starting my channel. I said it's time to rewrite the rules on what success and failure look like in football, because even the most successful team of all time fails more times than they win if the line in the sand around what success and failure looks like is a season with a trophy or a season without. Right? And so Real Madrid, Man United, those teams fail more times than they succeed in the history of their club, and everybody else fails more times than them, because it's like playing golf, right? Like the professionals at golf, like Tiger Woods didn't win more competitions than he lost as a participant in them. And if the line in the sand is you only succeed if you win a trophy, then it's very easy to be a fan who doesn't actually dictate the outcome, but wants to be right, which is what egos are, right? They want to be right. And so it's very easy for fans of football to sit there and always say that their club is shit or that other clubs are doing it better, because there's always someone that in the moment is doing things that are slightly better than you are. And
so that's where my argument as well about how fans are treated.
Wait.
Yeah,
that's not where I was going. About how fans are treated, because I agree with you. Obviously, you're going to fail a lot more than you succeed, but I think fans' expectations, especially at a club like Tottenham, are probably heightened because of the amount of money we pay. So
I think I don't think that the money you pay has any bearing on what you should expect. I think there's millions of variables.
But if you
the outcome.
Okay, so but if you go to, for example, a West End theatre play, and you see a bad performance, you're going to boo. And if you go and see, like, for example, your kids play, or say a children's play, you're not going to boo, are you? Because your expectation is not there, and you haven't paid for it.
I think the difference is that with live sport, you're not paying for the outcome because the jeopardy is what is part of the excitement. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. It's like going to the cinema, right? You think about someone, I don't know, like Quentin Tarantino, right? Who's made a film. He knows the outcome of that film before anyone else does, right? Because he's made it, right? And he's seen it before it gets live, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to charge £100 a ticket, even though he knows the outcome, because it will be on repeat to 1,000 people to see it, that the outcome's already known in the film. You might not know the outcome. It's almost like the known knowns, the unknown knowns, the known unknowns, all that stuff that I've said 1,000 times. Like there's variations whereby like there's outcomes that are known, and therefore you can't pay unreasonable prices. But part of the reason why football is so expensive is not just because of the environment in which you watch it. The stadium is better at Tottenham than it is anywhere else in Europe, bar maybe Real Madrid. London, the prices, inflation, all that stuff, the fact that you've got to pay for the players' wages. But on top of that, you don't know what's going to happen, and that has its own value. And if people think that because I'm paying £100 a ticket and I can go to West Ham and pay £50 a ticket, I therefore demand success, you're missing the entire point of what the jeopardy of sport and live sport is. Part of the value is not knowing the outcome and that anything can happen. Whereas where I think the value is implemented is in the environment in which you watch it. I see people making the argument that we pay first class prices but get economy seats. Like, no, that's not the argument to justify Tottenham's prices versus what we're performing.
How would you say about the prices when it came to the Europa League quarter final? Because the price went up because the expectation has gone up as well. The opponent we faced was not better than a Premier League game.
Yeah,
but the opponent, the competition, we're getting closer to winning it. So then the expectation has gone up, and Daniel Levy knows that, and that's why he's put the price up. It's nothing to do with the opposition or the quality of the game, and it's the same for Bodo Glimt.
UEFA,
well.
right? So UEFA just determined the prices of the final. For example, there was two categories. Man United and Tottenham didn't pay different prices for the final. That's dictated by UEFA. But to use that analogy of the travel to the destination, people that say we're paying first class prices but sitting in economy, no. A better reflection of the analogy would be you're paying for first class flights and you're getting first class seats, i.e., you're watching the game in the best environment. But when you get to your holiday, it pisses with rain for 2 weeks. That's more of the analogy of the season that we've just endured, right? You don't know what you're going to get on your destination, but you know that you're going to watch the game in the second best stadium or the best stadium in the world. So like the people that say that you're paying for the match, you're not paying for the match. You're paying for the experience to enjoy the match. The match itself is the holiday, and you can't control the outcome of that, just like you can't control the weather in Mallorca or Thailand or wherever you go. You can't control whether or not there's a fucking like you get salmonella poisoning from the place when you eat at a restaurant. I've been talking too much. I want to bring James in. Parker, I'll let you come back in for the
no.
Drew, you got to go, have you, mate? Appreciate you, Drew. Thank you, mate. Kate, everyone's got to go. Okay, well, perfect. We'll slim it down.
I'm waving to Drew.
Oh,
yeah, I'm saying
Appreciate you, mate.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Drew. You're on mute, Drew.
Everyone leaves at the same time.
His mic's gone.
Oh, your mic's gone. Okay. Cheers, Drew. See you, mate. Guys, get over to Tottenham Diehards, Spurs Diehards TTID. I'll put the link in the description in a second. James, welcome to the show. Parker, I will let you come back on that in a second. I just want to bring James in as well.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think what I was going to say, first of all, I wanted to say about, originally we was talking about fans saying, yeah, well, I wanted to win the league or whatever you're saying. For me, I think it takes a big person to come on here and actually stand bold and actually say what they believe rather than just criticise. Because it's one thing criticising, but you've always got a scapegoat as in, well, I'm a Tottenham fan. Of course I wanted to win. I'm a Tottenham fan. It's very easy to say he's crap, that's crap, this is crap. And then as soon as they play well or we win something or vice versa, go, yeah, well, I'm a Spurs fan. Of course I wanted that. So it's kind of like an scapegoat. It's almost like backing yourself into a corner where you're never going to lose. So for me, there's certain people that kind of say their real opinion, and there's certain people that just knock the club for the sake of knocking the club, knowing that they're Spurs fans, so they got their easy route out, in my opinion. And as in talking about like the ticket prices and what you would expect and don't expect, I think you could both be right at the same time. I think there has to be a reasoning with. You can't be expected to pay. I'm just going to pick numbers out of the air. £2,000 a season, and then the wage bill gets lower. The quality of player gets lower, and then the prices go up and up and up. Because at some point there has to be some sort of value in your ticket that you're buying, in my opinion. I.e., like you said about the holidays, if they showed you a picture of this lovely building and then when you got there, it was in the middle of nowhere with no swimming pool, or there was a swimming pool but no water. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're sort of well and good because the picture looks like what you've got, but at the same time, is it really what you've got? So I don't think either of you are wrong. I think you're both right. You have to get something for your money that you're paying for. You can't advertise this lovely new shiny stadium. And for me, I've praised Levy over the last year or so because I think he's backhanded like we've all asked him to. And I'm Levy out, in fairness. I think in that circumstance, you have to be providing some of what you're promising. You promised us we're going to take us to the next level. You promised X, Y, and Z, and so far nothing's happened. So I agree with both with what you both said in a way.
The thing is with ticket prices, just to jump in here, the one thing that fans never really do or want to do, because I appreciate it's sensitive, is go, it's simple supply and demand, as in how they see it. It's basic economics. If you've got a waiting list like we do for season ticket holders, we are actually the ones that are partly giving them a rationale that allows for that to go on.
100%.
You know, I know it's not a nice choice, but it is still a choice that every fan has. You know, 100%. Whether you want to pay to actually attend and accept this, and if there are people prepared to do it, and there's a waiting list. Knowing now we know our ownership really are all about the profit, can we really expect anything different?
Well, the only thing that I completely agree with you, and again, I said I wouldn't say any more for a while, and I've already broken my promise. Where I think the Levy out guys are right is, I agree with what you just said there, Lee. I think that you're absolutely spot on. There is a supply and demand, right? But within that, where you can get angry is the club can jack the prices. It's called elasticity of demand, right? Like a packet of cigarettes. You can price it up to a certain degree, but some people are still going to pay for the cigarette because they're addicted to smoking. Eventually, no one's going to want to smoke at some point, right? But whilst that's not the case, where Levy outers can, like, they should, if they're like logically consistent, they should be able to go, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I might not be able to afford the ticket anymore, or might not be able to justify the ticket anymore. Someone else will. That's fair enough. That's the way the world works. Not everyone can turn left on an aeroplane. Most people turn right for a reason, right? But where I think you can then, for a Levy out, make the argument is, well, how much of the money you're making is getting pumped back into the team? And whilst the 42% threshold ratio thing on wage to turnover is a misguided notion, because it's dependent on the numerator and the denominator, the amount of revenue you have versus the wage that you have. Ultimately, if Daniel Levy isn't spending as much of that money as he could be to make us competitive, then therein lies the ability to poke holes. Because if everyone that like was pissed off when, I'm not paying £110, or maybe in 5 years' time it'll be £200 a ticket, but someone else is, then the club can still just jack the prices up until no one's willing to pay any more. But where the fans then have to go, well, how much of that money that you're making is getting put back into the club, right? Because that's what this whole thing's about. And if they don't raise the spend alongside the revenue, then it is a relative thing. Like, you shouldn't have to sit there and go, well, 42% is only 42% because we're making more revenue than Aston Villa. Yeah. Actually, Aston Villa are clearly demonstrating more ambition, right?
Yeah.
Than we are. So that
you've got to look at
that number. We should.
You've got to look at also the money spent on that is going to be spent on the new women's training ground. I mean, for example, my opinion is that the training ground that we currently have is more than big enough to host the women's team already. It's just purely property that they want. They just want more land, and because when the inevitability comes of selling the club, then you have that extra property that you're selling along with it. And the women's team, in my opinion, doesn't need a new training ground. They need better players. I mean, that women's team, I remember several years ago, I played against that women's team for my Sunday League football team pre-season, and I mean they have come on leaps and bounds, but there's not a lot that needs changing in that team. They just need better players, and like I said, it's where the money is getting diverted into the club, and I have my doubts, and if it came down to it, where if it was voiced properly by Daniel Levy to the fans to say, listen, we're gonna give back to the fans, and we're gonna drop prices. There might not be as much in the transfer kitty.
They will never.
That would go. Could you imagine the PR of him? He would be untouchable.
They will never do that. That's the one area of their revenue that they know will be a non-negotiable, because first of all, I know there's people in the Tottenham community that I think the system is fucking stupid, by the way. The away system, there's no ballot. I think that whole thing is shit. It doesn't give anyone a chance. I went to Bodo, right? Half the people that were there in the pub looked at me, recognized me, wanted to come over and say hello, and we had a good time. The other half of people scowled at me because they knew that I didn't have enough points to be there on merit, and that I was I'd hacked the system by paying over the odds for the ticket, right? And they looked at me like I was like a cancer, like you don't belong here. You don't belong in this ecosystem. There's 0.1% of Tottenham fans that belong here. You're not one of them. You shouldn't be here. And it wasn't because of my channel. It was because they believe that there is like an ecosystem of loyalty.
Yeah.
That's fine. They can think that way, but they're in the fortunate few that have got that system. And I always make the argument that access to the points does not equate. It's not the same thing as loyalty to your club, right? There's a lot of people that would go to every away game if they could. They just can't.
Of course.
They can't get there.
Yeah.
So
and that thing is gradually going to embed itself into home games as well, in a certain aspect.
But I don't believe that anyone will. Sorry, so who was going to come in there? Sorry.
I mean, what we've got to remember is the argument about ticket prices and things like that, and loyalty and all this lot, comes down into a lot of different subsections. You've got your season ticket holders who look, they're taking the piss out of, basically. They're paying all this money this season and they're seeing absolute dross. Then you've got those that might get to half the home games because they buy a ticket on that day, and they've seen. But those people that have bought one ticket maybe that season or two tickets and turned up, they've spent the same amount of money. They've got, and we've won the games, and we've played on the odd occasion when we've played well, say against City or something. They're coming away and thinking that that money was well spent, that they've had the experience that they expected. So it all depends on the fan and the circumstances to whether we're overpaying or underpaying. Because you talk about going to a restaurant. Going to a restaurant, if it's a 5-star or 3-star Michelin restaurant, it's not just about the food you're eating, it's about the whole experience.
100%.
And this is about, going to Tottenham. I've been to the stadium, and you go in there and you walk in there and you look around and you're all in awe. If you actually get to a game where we do win, you come out of there and everything's rosy, everything's perfect.
Yeah, best day of your life.
I'll tell you a great example.
You lose,
within reason, though. Surely it's within reason. Again, this is where you've got to be kind of reasonable. Of course, when you come away from a win, it's fantastic. But what I would say, and this is just me personally, that I would swap that shiny new stadium for the old White Hart Lane in a heartbeat if it means I could have that team back. That's just my personal preference. If
you wouldn't have that team these days with that stadium, that's the point.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, if people are kind of comparing the whole experience, where I stand, I would go back to the old White Hart Lane and have that experience with that team within a heartbeat. So again, it's sort of like,
I think most fans would agree with you that the stadium is a nice thing, but ultimately what they're looking for is success on the pitch, or a better team, better performances, better outcomes, whatever. But that's not how live sport works, right? Like, there's jeopardy.
No, but what I think what it is proving, though, is this season in that lovely new stadium and that unpredictable results, I've never seen the stadium so empty as I have in the last 5 games. I mean, Villa away, I don't blame any of them, but it was embarrassing away performance, like away attendance. The last games at home, they're embarrassing, but I completely understand it. And this is for me where this for me is where Daniel Levy isn't an idiot. He's not an idiot. He's going to see that and go, hold on a minute. People are now questioning what is going on. People are now not turning up. Something needs to change. And that for me is going to be Ange. But it does get to a point where it is like this nice experience and this nice stadium and this nice day out. There does come a point where people go, hold on a minute. This isn't worth it. And I think that is where Levy's got to be careful not to fall into that trap, and I don't think he will. But that,
James, sorry, I'll just say the best example of fans. I do agree to a certain extent of what you're saying, but I remember, Sean, you did a pre-match and I think it was a half-time video during the Liverpool semi-final home leg. And you were interviewing fans inside the stadium. And I was shocked at how many you interviewed didn't actually support Spurs. And they were just neutral fans that were going.
That was a pre-game walkthrough.
There was, I think, Americans, there was Germans. You got to, and these are the fans that Levy wants. Deep down, the amount of money that these guys spend compared to one season ticket holder, it's just the margin is crazy. And you think
I made a comment about this. I was like, wow, I never thought I'd do a walkthrough through the South Stand and I asked 10 random people. I deliberately do it all in one take so that no one can accuse me of picking. And I was like, I spoke to Dutch people, German people.
I remember,
it was right. I met that Saudi Arabian after the game. Right, that guy, he was, and he was wearing a half and half. People were like, "Oh, look at that half and half clown. He's not here. He's here just for the football. He went to Arsenal yesterday, whatever." He was pumped. I met him after the. Hi, doggy. I met him after the game. He was pumped more than the majority of Tottenham fans that were in there. So I don't necessarily. I hear what you're saying, but I don't necessarily think that you can ascribe, like where you're from, to. Like your geography doesn't necessitate your loyalty, if that makes sense, or your fan. And I think that video.
No, I'm not talking about loyalty. I'm talking about spend. I'm talking about spending in the club. That's what I'm talking about. So, I mean, let's be honest. The real reason that Son is still being played every single home game is because of. The South Korean fans that are going, because they have come to see him. They haven't. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, a lot of them are Spurs supporters, but it will be interesting to see how many South Korean fans are still in the club.
Well, mate, more than that.
So how many people have realised?
I'm really interested to see how many people are walking around Bilbao that are Korean.
No. When I was going to say when Sonny retires and leaves the club.
Well, yeah, when he goes,
they've just signed his successor, haven't they?
Exactly.
They've already found that young lad.
Protecting that Korean revenue. Of course it is. Everyone can see that. It's interesting how when it comes down to a profit thing, though, they always seem to somehow manage to focus on that. But I know you've talked about this, Sean. When you talk about, strategically, we're often behind that 8 ball, and it always seems reactive rather than proactive when it comes down to football-related things. I agree with you, but there's so many times where we're excellent when you see it when it comes down to the money side of things and how we run the club in that respect. But it always just seems like on the football matters, it's like the smaller priority.
I want to ask you guys this. Right?
I don't think it's the priority. I think it's the risk.
I think it became skewed in the last several years.
Why would? Yeah, go on. Sorry, Brian.
In the way that it's looked, because basically there can't be anything wrong with a new stadium and more revenue and more concerts and money coming in. Like that can't be bad for the club. But I think that the biggest problem was there was no transfers for 2 windows under Pochettino, and then Pochettino said
for a reason.
Okay, but just I'm just saying, okay.
The thing
And
is,
then-
just to quickly jump in there, Brian, that argument keeps coming up left, right, and centre over and over and over again. Let's not forget, Pochettino was offered players. He turned them down. So, yes, we didn't sign anybody. And yes, it was a disgrace. And yes, the players that he was offered might not have been the right ones. But it wasn't just a black and white.
Nothing is ever.
Not having any players.
Nothing's ever.
Players. There were
nothing's ever black and white, Sarn. But what I'm going to say is that let's say Pochettino, it was coming to the end of the cycle, and he did make the point that we need to rebuild. And then when things went wrong for him, they kind of said, well, it's easier to sack him than to do a rebuild, so we're going to sack him, and we're going to bring in a win-now manager in Mourinho.
No, that's not what happened.
Just not what happened there as well. Let's not forget Pochettino. Let's not forget Pochettino said if he wins the Champions League, he would possibly leave as well.
He was twerking for a new job in the pre-match presser for the final. Everyone forgets that. I love.
He was.
I'm like Kate. I want Poch back. But let's not rewrite history. He was twerking for a new job in the pre-match presser, and the year following the Champions League final, there were performances that looked like he was screaming and crying out loud for the sack. When we lost 7-2 to Bayern Munich, and he ended up with that game with 9 forwards on the pitch, or 8 forwards on the pitch, we lost 7-2. I said to my dad at the time, I said, this guy he's calling for the sack. He's asking for. He doesn't want to be a part of this anymore.
No, I agree with you. There was a problem. There was a problem.
I've only got. Sorry, Brian. I'll come to you first, mate. We talk about Daniel Levy a lot on this show, but I want to. We've got 20 minutes left before I round off, okay? And I want to get everyone's just quick answer on this one-word answer, and then I want to move into the last segment of the show based on your answers, which I'm going to come back to, round circle on. Based on your answers, what do we need for next summer? I've got 20 minutes left, and I don't want to suck it all up with Daniel Levy stuff. Okay, so Soren, I'll start with you, and we'll go like a snake. Just one word answer quickly. If Pochettino was in charge of this squad, what would we have achieved this season? League finish, cup finishes. One word for the league, and then cups. But not a whole lot of digest on it.
Top 4, no cup.
Top 4, no cup. Kate, this team under Poch?
Top 6, Europa League, and possibly a domestic cup as well.
Europa League win, yeah?
Yeah.
With Poch. Okay.
Yeah.
Lee?
7th, league finish. And I think he would win us the Europa League.
Okay. Brian?
6th in the league and lose to United in the final. And I think we'll win on Wednesday.
Interesting. Okay. James?
I think we get top 5, and I think we win a cup. What cup? I'm not sure, but I think they've been obviously occupied by Newcastle, who haven't won in a long time. Palace, and now obviously Europa League. So I definitely think there's a cup win in there and top 5.
Okay. Parker?
I'd say 7th. I'd say Europa League win, just based off the opponents that we've faced. And we probably would have gone out in the semi-finals to Palace in the FA Cup.
Can I just add one thing about Europa League with Poch? Let's not forget he had some absolute stinkers against teams that we should have been beating 4, 5, 6-0 in Europa League.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the takeaway from all of you, just quickly, this is going somewhere, right? The takeaway from all of you is that league performance would have been prioritised and would have been better. None of you, though, were giving Poch with this team the credit of what he achieved in the context of what he did in 2017 and 2018. Right, which is 2nd or 3rd. So you're all by proxy of that saying that this team is not as good as the 2017 team was, right? But you're all also on some level, apart from you, Kate, giving Ange Postecoglou the cup manager tag more than Pochettino. Is that fair? Just yes or no, yeah? Okay. Yeah. So on that basis, then, segment of the, and I'm watching you in the chat, guys, as well. So make sure you're keeping the participation going in there. Let me know what your thoughts are. On that basis, if we get rid of Ange and we bring in someone that is not necessarily going to be as remarkable as Poch, but someone that's out there, I'm going to go around the houses now for the last 20 minutes. I'll give you all like 3 minutes each so that we can, in 20, there's 1, 2, 3, 6 of you. So 20 minutes, perfect. 3 minutes each. Tell me your manager and tell me what we need realistically this summer that we can achieve far better in the league and also have some sort of cup run, because it sounds like you're all saying that we've got a cup guy, but we haven't got a league guy. And in Poch, who was the best we've had in 40 years, we had a league guy, but not really a cup guy. How do we get a little bit of a sort of a merging of the talents? And what do we need to amplify that chance in the context of what we're competing with? Which, as I said earlier, West Ham might suddenly be a new threat. Aston Villa sure as fuck are. Newcastle are in the fucking mix. Chelsea, City, Liverpool, and Arsenal and Chelsea aren't going anywhere. So, how do we go about it in the summer with regards trying to close the gap on what the best we've ever had versus potentially the worst we've ever had? But also, you guys are all saying that we're a better cup team than we are a league team under this guy than we were under Poch. So, let me know what your thoughts are with what we need and who that guy is. And let's start with James.
So I'm just going to pick what I want and half reasonable. For me, I would like Glasner. I called it at the beginning of the season. I'd like Glasner. I think we need a Edison or a Wharton, someone that's just going to do the dirty work. I don't even care if they can't pass the ball forward. I just want someone to take the pressure off of the back line. I just want someone like a Wharton to take all that pressure off that back line, and I think instantly you'll see that we're solid. It would be like, oh, well, we can defend now. Right system, playing a back three. I'm a massive advocate of Danso. I think he's been nothing short of brilliant since he's come, to be honest, for that sort of money. So I would like to see us go to a back three. Someone like Edison or Wharton in the midfield with maybe a Bissouma or a Berghvall, or depending on how he's going to work with the youth.
Who's the manager?
Glasner.
You want Glasner? Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I personally, there's a few people that I would sell that I would get money in. So one of them would be like Kulu. I would sell Son, Brennan Johnson, all players that I think are like okay. And I would bring in proper tactical players, someone like Eze's or the winger from PSV. That is the sort of players I would be looking at. So for me, I would be looking at sort of strengthening the front line with 2 players into the front line. And I would also be looking at a CDM and Glasner. And I think that naturally, by just getting a CDM, the team will go up levels by a good coach and a CDM, personally.
All right, love that.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll come to you next, mate. I see you put a comment in the private chat as well. You might have wanted to get something off your chest with regards to the ticket prices. Sorry, I didn't. I'm conscious of the time, and I'm ranting too much myself.
That's
so
all right. No, all I was saying was that everyone cries and moans about the ticket prices when we're not doing well. But when we had Poch and we was punching above our weight, nobody sort of said, it's good value. Maybe we should be paying a bit more. You've got to level it out that way.
I haven't been since during Poch, actually. I refused to go, to be honest. I'm not in line with the way football is at the moment. I watch my original local team, Enfield Town, now. I go to those games because I just don't like the way. It's not just Tottenham. I just don't like the way football's going as well with prices. So that's sorry to interrupt you, Kate.
That's fair.
I'd go with Glasner as well. I'd get Eze in.
Nice.
100 million%. I just think is just what we need. I think we need a strong number 6 because everyone says Ange don't play over number 6. Well, Ange won't be here to get a number 6.
When Eze did this, Kate, when Eze did this when he scored, was that to Spurs?
Yeah, he was saying, call me.
Yeah.
There's so much I think we need. I think we still need 2 strong wingers, one either side. I think we need to get rid of a Richalison and get somebody better up front. but realistically, it's not going to happen. So I would say a strong number 6, an Eze type player, and a winger, probably on a right winger, I think.
A right winger, so like a Cherky or maybe
Cherky, fantastic player.
He is, but there's rumours he's going to Man United now, I think.
Oh, there's rumours he's going everywhere, mate. Like
that's true.
Yesterday I put out a stream. People going, "You're sure you're clickbait? You're lying." I'm like, I don't make these fucking stories up. Everything I say in my video is legit. It's a legit source. It's just like the quality of the stuff.
I think you word it in a certain way, though.
Yeah, I certainly word it. Of course.
What do
you think I'm doing it?
You should start the stream and say, yeah, we link with Cherky, but it's a rubbish source, so we'll move on.
Yeah,
and do like a 3-minute video.
End the stream now. That's it, mate. Guys, see you later. 1 minute in. Click. No,
crap sauce, and we're done.
What are we doing here? Of course I'm going to. What are we doing?
Glasner doesn't play wingers, so like if Glasner comes in, it's going to be wing backs anyway.
100%. There you go, Brian. I'll come to you next, mate. Who's your manager and what do you want to see?
Well, if it's the Premier League guys, Glasner, I would think is the safest bet, the best bet. Next will be Areola, but I think he's like Poch. I don't know whether he'll deliver more than good progression sort of thing. Glasner, I think, would actually be a mixture of good league and good have a go at the cups as well. I think we need, like, if Romero goes, we're going to need 2 centre halves. If he stays, we'll need 1 centre half. It's pretty if we're playing 3 at the back. I think Vuskovic could play in a 3 at the back. I don't know about him in a 2. He looks very slow, apparently. He kind of has Tom Huddleston vibes about him. That he could be a great sweeper, but he'd need guys around him, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think we need a defensive midfielder. Unless Gray or Berghvall suddenly explode into that role or something. And I think we need a striker. We've a lot of attacking midfielders, and I think out of the bunch we have, we'll get solutions out of those. And even box to box, I think we have that quite good as well.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
Yeah, maybe one more wing back.
Can I add with Areola? I think people. When we was linked with him a few months ago, I actually went back and watched him properly. I don't see too much dissimilars to Ange, to be honest. He presses and presses and presses so far forward that the back line, the fullbacks don't invert, but the back line is always in your position half, and they try to suffocate teams. They've had just as many injuries as us. For me, Areola wouldn't work either.
They do hit the front a lot quicker though, James, and
They do, but it's very similar to the style that we try to play.
I think they press in a more triggered way. It's not just always press.
I think they've got better tactical forwards than someone like Brennan Johnson, who's a stature until the ball's delivered into the box.
He's also improved players. He's also improved players, which Ange kind of hasn't done.
I agree.
What you're forgetting is, though, if we're looking for a manager, the perfect manager for this Tottenham team that we have right now is Julian Nagelsmann. He is the master tactician, and the fact we did not try to get him in before is an absolute disgrace, because he is the perfect manager to come into Tottenham. And
Did they not try before?
Pardon?
Did they not try before?
Everybody thinks that we offered him the job and he turned us down. It's not true. There was not a job offer made to Julian Nagelsmann, and that is from the horse's mouth himself. So, I mean, we're not going to get Nagelsmann anyway, but I think the same as everybody is saying, Glasner is the one to go for at the moment, because he will come in, he will put his arms around the players, and he will improve the players that we've got. And then to add to that, we need a proper number 6 and a proper striker. And you're not actually far off. If you get a proper number 6 in there that just goes around and clears up, Palini or somebody like that, you're not far off. You then just change, stop inverting the wing backs and play them overlapping the wingers. You've actually got a team that could go and do something. And all
you know what the biggest problem with this notion of I don't hate it, by the way, but everyone thinks, we've got a squad that can play a back three. We do at the bottom end of the pitch. We absolutely do at the bottom end of the pitch and the wing backs. As you move up the pitch, we've got so many wingers that are suddenly not needed. There'd be a whole new revolution.
But they're not great. They're not great wingers.
No, but Van der Ven would not suit a low-lying defence. He is not as good in a tight space as what he is running back and defending. That is his strength.
I hear you on that. He's also a great ball playing centre back, though.
Yeah,
so it's not,
but there is a difference about his. If you see Van der Ven when we're pushed back and he's having to defend in his own box, he's all over the place.
He's not strong at heading. For someone so tall, is actually one of his weaknesses, and he's even admitted he prefers to let the ball from a long ball. He prefers to let it bounce first, so that because he knows his pace is so good at the recovery.
When you say we've too many wingers, though, Shawnee, like how many out and out wingers do we actually have? They're all guys that are better.
My point is that if you go to a back three model, then it depends on the version of the back three. But you don't need wingers to be one-on-one direct take-on specialists in a back three model the same way you do in a 4-3-3, right? Yeah. We haven't got it figured out in a 4-3-3. But what we have quietly gone about doing is buying a whole bunch of players that might end up being perfect for a 4-3-3 model. And if you then go and get in a manager like an Oliver Glasner who plays a wing-back system, then the type of wingers that you do need in that 3-4-3 model, they're suddenly different, right? They need to cut in more. They need to be. Let's say you have model doesn't suit the likes of Yang. It doesn't suit the likes of Odegaard.
No.
The likes of.
But would it not suit James Maddison and Kulusevski? They could play just off the striker, really narrow, and then have Udogie and Porro bombing past them. So
I hear you, but we're harking back. Then what will happen is that will initially fail because people have impatience, and what will happen is you'll be left with square pegs for round holes under a new philosophy, and then people will then move the goalposts and say, "Well, why have we got more square peg for round holes again?" When there's the same people that were calling for an Oliver Glasner to come in, right? So it's just Tottenham fans always want something else than what we actually have. I'm not saying that we should stick with Ange, right? Because I think that's the wrong bed to be lying in. But to pivot to a model like Glasner is fine, but in so doing, you're going to then need patience because a lot of the players that the youth-centric model that we've gone around building, well, that model is not built for a back three system at the front end of the pitch, is what I'm saying.
But like Brennan Johnson is first choice at the moment, right? He's an inside forward. He can't play wide. He's good when he comes in.
Yeah, he is, and that's fine because you spent 50 million quid on him. But Yang certainly isn't. Mikey Moore probably isn't. Certainly,
Mikey Moore can play.
Certainly, Matisse Tell isn't. Right? If we were to go and get Oliver Glasner and then also activate the clause on Matisse Tell, problems.
No, we can't. We'll have to make decisions on the likes of Tell, Sonny. Maybe but the other guys, Brennan Johnson, Odegaard, Moore, for me, there are guys that actually can play inside as well.
For me, I'd simplify a lot of this. I agree with pretty much everyone on the Glasner point and a lot of the same names that's come up. But I think you should always, for a top team, focus on the spine of it first and foremost. If you look back even just through our probably best team in Poch, Prime Lloris, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Moussa Dembele, Eriksson, Son, Kane, and then you try and actually do that back to what we've got right now. Sort the spine of it out first and foremost, and then you can build everything else around it. And we're not maybe that far off, but we need, if Romero's going to go, he needs replacing. So we do need to get somebody else that can still be that top level. I don't think we've actually got a midfielder out of any of them, maybe with the exception of Maddison, that are at that level. So then there's Rome weren't built in a day, but you've got to get that sorted. And I still, as much as I don't mind Solanke, I'm not sure he alone is just enough in that spine of the team. So in actual fact, if we just got that part right through the middle,
We definitely need another striker as well.
The interesting thing is,
Is it fair to say then? Is it fair to say then? I know obviously we've all pretty much unanimously said Glasner. What about if it wasn't Glasner and it was someone like Xavi who works with the youth and brings the youth through? That way you're going to get your development of the youngsters as well as kind of your big name and Lucas Xavi. I think with Glasner, you'd be building to sort of win a bit sooner. I think if you was to get someone like Xavi, I think there's a long-term project there with the likes of the Greys, the Berghvalls, the Yangs. I think there could be a more positive future for those guys.
The only problem with Xavi,
I think a main thing that for me that hasn't been said yet is their ability to manage different competitions.
That's where Nagelsmann would come in because he goes from game to game.
Yeah, so let's be honest. I mean, like, the whole thing where Sean asked the question earlier about Poch and Ange. I mean, Poch, when he got to the Champions League final, still managed to get Champions League qualification at the same time, whereas Ange has put all of his eggs into Europa League, whilst in another season could potentially have got us relegated. So we need to have a manager that can compete and know how to compete when potentially Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, or they need to know how to do that. And Glasner's got the experience of doing that. Some managers don't, and I think that's a massive thing, especially if you want to manage Tottenham, because the expectation is we have to be in Europe. So, and in the past, European football, and also I think with Pochettino, one of the reasons why he didn't win things is because of the expectations that was put on him by Daniel Levy of European qualification first, cup are an added bonus. So from what I see now, Daniel Levy even himself has accepted the only chance of Champions League football obviously was Europa League, to win the Europa League. So he's accepted to put all of his eggs in that basket. Whereas go on, sorry.
Yeah, guys, sorry, just quickly, I'll give everyone like 30 seconds to finish your last points of the day, but it's 2.5 hours. I've got to go. I've got to take the dog out, and I've got dinner on the table as well. So whoever it was that was about to speak, I'll give you the first crack. 30 seconds. Please include your prediction for the game. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's been a part of the show. It's been awesome. All of you that have since gone. Everyone in the chat section as well. Shout out to you guys. I've also got a super chat from Spurs. Saying better contribute, because I think that the monetization from this stream could be in jeopardy. Possibly. I'm sure we said some words that shouldn't be there. If not, use this money to throw beer over the United fans, Sean. Thank you very much, Spurs63. I certainly will buy a beer. I don't know what the price of beer out in Bilbao is, but I really hope it's nothing like the price of beer in Bodo. £24 a pint. Absolutely outrageous. But thank you very much for the pint, mate, for the beer, mate, and I really appreciate you, buddy. Very nice of you. Also got one from JFK saying, great show, guys. Come on, you Spurs. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate you, buddy. Very nice of you to do that. I really appreciate that donation. There's 6 of us left. I'm going to start. Who was it that was going to come in for a comment now? Whoever it was it you, yeah. Lee, make your comment and then make it quick, and then also round off with your last final thoughts. And by the way, also in the private chat, please drop anyone that I don't have's number. So Parker, James, and I've got the rest of you guys. Please put your number in the private chat so I can add it to the group in the WhatsApp. But Lee, I'll start with you, mate. Final thoughts and prediction for the game.
Yeah, prediction: we win 1-0. It's an absolute stinkfest game, and we get a really spawny goal in injury time, and we celebrate like mad. We lift the cup. Come on, you Spurs.
Love that. Cheers, Lee. Warren?
1 Spurs. Absolutely fantastic game in the sense of 2 shit teams playing each other, and end to end, neither of us can put a goal in, but we will win 3-1. And don't care what your opinions is of Levy, Ange, whatever. Let's back the team. Come on, you Spurs.
What was the score prediction? You said 3-1.
3-1 Spurs.
3-1. Okay, love that. Never going to happen in a million years.
It
So
is.
if you're gambling, people don't bet on 3-1. It's never going to happen.
3-0 by half time. 3-0 by half time. They'll score a consolation in 8 to 9th minute when we've given up.
Sell goals. If you're a Betfair enthusiast, sell goals all day long. Brian, I'll come to you next, mate.
I think we're going to win 2-1. I think we're going to overpower them physically because they're quite a slow team apart from Ahmad. And I think we just have to concentrate on shutting down Bruno and Ahmad and watching the set pieces. But we've been better in the set pieces as well. So I think we're going to be very focused. We're going to see another Europa, great performance, and we're just going to do it.
Lovely to see you, Brian, mate. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks,
Parker, over to you, mate. Final thoughts and score prediction.
I think 2-2 at full time. We win on penalties.
That's great.
Don't bet them.
Please don't put me through that.
Don't bet that. Don't bet that. I reckon we're going to be 2-0 up at half time, and then we're going to stink it out. I think it's going to be. I think we're going to blow them away in the first half, and then I think we're just going to sit back and do absolutely nothing, just stink the game out and get a 2-0 win. And my reasoning for that is I think that the players know a lot of these players, if they don't win it, they're in a hiding for nothing to even move on and get lower teams. I think it's a really big game for those guys as well as the manager.
Yeah. Love that, mate. Love that. I don't have the same optimism you guys do, but I don't care. I'll be out there. I don't give a shit. As long as it's the trophy, I'm going for a stinkfest 0-0 or 1-0 Tottenham. I don't see it being anything more than that. I think you sell goals all day long, and I can't wait to be there. I'll be leaving on Tuesday, guys. The last show I'll be doing here in the old the house here is tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow evening, I've got a show with Barnaby Slater, and he's making his debut on the channel. Can't wait to sort of chew the fat with him. That's tomorrow at 7 o'clock. You might see another show from me tonight at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock with Henry. But apart from that, guys, I want to say a massive thank you to you guys in the chat, to the boys on the stream here right now, and also to Kate and to Drew and to whoever. There was another person that left early as well. I think my mind's blank. But,
well, safe travels, mate. Safe travels, and come on the Spurs.
Thank you, James. Appreciate you. Appreciate you all. Appreciate the guys in the chat. Thank you for the super chats. We'll leave it there. Like, subscribe, and comment, guys. And as always, come on, you Spurs.